So the first thing I want to talk about is Highway 58.
I don't think you'll hurt it.
MnDOT has been throwing around, they've got some money for 2021 for Highway 58, and they've been throwing around, do we reconstruct sections of it? Because you can see how bad it is up from Main to 5th.
sounds
It's really bad out here. And then
All right,
they've got
thanks.
money, they want to do it all the way out to 20th Street, which is where the concrete highway starts. So we've been working back and forth with them what our costs would be, because there's some 1800 sewer and water mains out here in the highway. And so we've been giving them costs what it would be for us to do from like Main to 4th, Main to 5th, Main to 7th, or all the way out. And the costs get pretty extreme for us because it's a lot of sewer and water to replace with it. But I got a hold of them yesterday. I said, okay, what are you doing? Because I got a tour today. I said, I want to know what your latest and greatest is. So they had a meeting yesterday, and they have decided they don't have enough money to reconstruct anything. So what they're going to do in 2021 is mill and overlay all the way from 61 out to 20th Street and do a lot of ADA improvements. Because with the mill and overlay, like we've mentioned on our projects before, now you have to do ADA improvements at the pedestrian ramps if you mill and overlay. So they'll be doing that all the way through in 2021. So our costs will be very minimal. We'll have, like in the downtown area where they replace some ramps, like in this corner here at 4th Street, we'll have the color upcharge for sidewalks, at the pedestrian ramp. And then we'll also have water valve adjustments and manhole adjustments that are city owned. And then we've also in our CIP already in 2021, we've got those RFBs, those reflective rectangular flashing devices for crosswalks at 13th and 17th Street. We'll keep those in there, and we'll also have the costs of installing those, but MnDOT will install them with the project, but we'll end up having an agreement to pay for those. So at least he said that's pretty set now, unless they find more funding somewhere. And he said, up at the Capitol and the legislature, they're talking about gas tax and different ways of funding more transportation. So if they get a little more kitty of money, they may start from Main Street and do some of the reconstruction at that point. I told him, as soon as you find out anything like that, let me know, because that is a big cost to us when you start talking $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million, whatever, for the city's cost. So as soon as they find out, they'll tell us. But right now we're looking at just an overlay, and we've already got budgeted enough in the CIP for it.
What lots was that?
It was from Main Street all the way out to 20th on Plum and Bush Streets, which is Highway 58.
And what is the condition of the sewer and the water at this point?
Actually, from 5th to 7th, we reconstructed that in the early 90s. So, it isn't in that bad a shape. The sewer is brand new there. We put sewer mains on both sides because we separate it from the tunnel. And the water main we never replaced. So that would be just water main there. But down here from Main to 5th, we should be replacing all the sewer and water.
We've had multiple breaks right out here on 4th.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah, the water's lifting the whole road.
And actually from 7th out to 20th, that was reconstructed in 1983, and we did not replace them then. So it really should be.
And we need to upsize those water mains.
Yeah,
Well, first of all,
they're
they're corroded. For those that don't remember, we have a water issue on the other side of the highway all the way to the end of our line, where they run out of water with heavy usage. So most of the projects we're doing on that end of town are all driven to enlarge that water main so we can get enough water to the houses out there. They actually run
that
out.
Langsdorff area is what he's talking about. We don't meet fire pressure ratings or something out there during certain times when there's high usage. So, okay, so it's actually good news for our budget that they're just going to mill and overlay for now. But then they said they'd probably look at scheduling something out about 10 years from there. So 2031, 2032, 2033 of reconstructing. It's kind of a waste to do it all in 2021. But when you look at the condition of this road, if you can't mill it, you got to at least mill and overlay. And if they don't have enough money to reconstruct it, that's what they have to do. So, and you can kind of see the condition all the way up here as you go too. It's not in real good shape.
You can feel it.
But it is 2 more years out, so we'll have to patch it for 2 more years. So we'll drive out 58 to 17th Street, and then we'll cut over to South Park, come back in, and I'll show you what's remaining on the 2018 reconstruct project. We've on that project, You know, we had to do temporary paving last year on Bush Street, 11th Street, and 10th Street. And we told the contractor that's his to pay for. And he's fighting us on that. And he's got his lawyer involved. We've got our lawyer involved. But we're trying to get a date with him to set up to just sit down, talk about getting things done, and then we can fight about it later. So I don't know where that's going.
Contractor.
That's RAW, R-A-W, out of Faribault. Yeah, that's a part of the project right back there. But this is all part of that mill and overlay here, so.
You can talk about a different road, maybe or not.
Well,
Nah, they're not gonna.
that's with the reconstruct. That'd be quite a ways out. Yeah, because they didn't even, on that reconstruct project, they didn't even get over to McSorley. So that's going to be the toughest street to do because it's a dead end. You got to have access for people at all times. We're replacing sewer and water, so it's tough. There's a lot of shifting of putting a traffic, down a sidewalk while you're doing utilities on one side of the road, then shift the traffic over to the other sidewalk while you do utilities on the other side of the road. So it's that's going to be a tough one, but they'll get it. Hopefully they'll come back. We're hoping to get things. We were hoping to get them fired up here in April, but now it's with the snow and stuff. It's looking like we won't be able to start on anything till May before things dry out.
And did you say crossing at 13th and 17th or 13th and 15th?
13th and 17th. You can see a crosswalk right back there. It'll be at that crosswalk, and then the one at 13th where the steps go up the hill too.
Yeah, that one's desperately needed.
Yeah. Well, and the cars, those cars are moving fast, and
And there's 5 buses that stop in the morning and 5 in the afternoon at that particular stop.
at the 13th.
Yeah,
Okay.
5 separate buses.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
And some are going this way and some are going that way.
Yeah.
So, it's all just
You didn't want to
And-
show where
little
they.
kids.
And we would probably, being there's no parking lane on the Memorial Bluff side, that curb line would stay straight. But on the other side where there is parking, we'd probably put bump outs there too to make those crosswalks a little shorter at those intersections.
To the next one.
It's going to be a MnDOT design, but we're gonna have input on how they do it. Let's see where we are.
Coming down to it.
You're coming the 10th.
You're on
12th. 10th.
13th.
13th.
30, okay, we started 11th with that reconstruct project. Yeah, it got to, when we put that temporary pavement in, it got to the end of the project. I don't know if I mentioned it to council, but it froze up so hard in November. The contractor was trying to get it graded to get that first lift of pavement down as a permanent lift. But the ground was so frozen hard that they had their grader there and they had teeth on, they have the grader blade and they had teeth that they could stick down instead of the blade. They stuck those teeth down and that whole grader at the front of the tires, the front end off the ground, going down the road, and it was scratching that gravel and it wasn't even cutting it at all. So that's when I made the call just to put temporary pavement down because the temps weren't going to get any warmer after that. And the blacktop plant was going to shut down within a couple days of that time.
What's the dollar amount on the dispute?
I think the pavement was about 40 to 50 grand. That temporary, but now it's got to be lifted up too, so there's going to be a cost to taking it off. There you go. And I had kind of always, even though we've been telling them all along, we've got all kinds of email trails, and that was what we wanted for like a month before that, 2 months before that, saying, if you tear it up, we want to see permanent pavement down, or you're going to be, responsible for paving it. And even at the end, he said, well, you don't need pavement on it. You just can run with gravel. I said, we're not running with gravel in town over the winter. That'd be a mess, a total disaster.
So are they going to pick this
But I always-
back up again?
Can you stop right
Yeah, they'll have to tear it up because we don't have the curbs in those areas. And they're not to grade either. That was the thing he said too, even if I put temporary down, I can put it down to grade and then we can put curbs in next year. I said, no, we're not going to do that either because if you're off by 1 inch, you're losing an inch of pavement or you're paving 5 inches instead of 4. So, 1 inch is easy to be off when you don't have curbs in
Right.
because that's what you use to grade it. So, I did all along feel that we would maybe split part of it with them. And I know we're going to have to now because, instead of getting these attorneys into it too deep and getting lawsuits and all that. But we'll see how it works out when we talk to them.
And that's just the normal give and take for a project of that size?
Yeah, this contractor has been slow. He's got projects in a couple other towns. I know Zumbrota is one of them, and he's pulled his crews off to go there quite a bit last summer. And we're on him, and we even had one meeting where we held it with them like towards the end of October, where we sat down with the paving company, him and us, and we talked about how are we going to get this done so we get that permanent lift of pavement down. And we had it all talked out, and he said, "Yep, I'll get those graded." And the blacktop guy was going to come in the next day and fine tune them and start paving. And he left town. The contractor he didn't even come up here he didn't have anybody here. He just left town, went to Zumbrota. After that meeting, when we just got done saying, "You'll go up there and grade that," and he said, "Yeah, I will." He left town. The blacktop guy called me. He said he was up here. He was really hot about it. He was on the phone. He said, "I'm not even coming in. I'm not even coming back to this town again." I said, "Wait, calm down." So we called the contractor. He came in the next day, but then it was starting to get too late and never did get it done. So are we at 11?
Yep. Third
So-
night.
Oh, we're at 9th already?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this 9th Street has the permanent first lift of pavement on. There's 2 lifts that go in. 2 2-inch lifts is 4 inches total. So that's permanent on 9th. 10th and 11th just have that scab replaceable pavement, the temporary. And I think this street has permanent first lift.
First
I can't
lift.
see the curbs
It's
here.
first lift.
Yeah, so this one is permanent too on South Park. Some
sidewalks.
areas you'll see the sidewalks never got finished off either, so we put blacktop in for sidewalks. That'll have to be peeled out too. Some of the drive aprons are the same way, a few of them. And then of course they'll have all the turf work to do after that. So on this project is basically peeling off that temporary pavement, grading it, putting down permanent, finishing off sidewalks and curbs, and turf establishment. And then going over to McSorley and doing everything on McSorley. Yep.
So when a resident has like a sidewalk, let's say from their, like right here, their whole
Yep.
sidewalk approaches the city sidewalk, and that's asphalt there,
Yep.
is
Whoop.
that on them to replace, or is that part
Nope, that'll be us, because we had to take it out in order to do our project, so we put all that back. And if they had it from if there was a boulevard there, like here, there's no boulevard. I think there was a boulevard back there. If they had a sidewalk coming out from the main sidewalk to the street, we'll replace that too. And that's all part of the project.
What happened to that tree there was so much discussion about?
It's there.
It's still there. It got the utility people. I don't know if it was HBC or Excel or who it was, but somebody was doing some utility work there, and they scuffed it up pretty good by hitting it with a bobcat. So it looks kind of beat up on the bottom there, but it's still there now. We didn't hit any real big roots when we were coming by in the street side, so we were able to save it. But with the amount of stress on it from that being hit and from all the work, I really don't anticipate it's going to make it too long. I mean, it might make it a year or 2 or 3. That's kind of where I'm thinking, but we didn't hit anything big that would force us to take it out. And then we have to come out into 7th Street and fine tune that too. That's all temporary pavement on Bush Street.
So when do citizens see the assessments on their tax bill? On sign off, after sign off? Or?
Yeah, typically, well, it won't be after we, finalize the project. It'll be once we get done with the project, and then we got to wait for turf to establish and make sure all the cleanup list is done. But I'm normally on these projects, if they're done in the fall like they're supposed to be, I bring them in like February, March. But on this one, I'll wait. It'll probably be July. He'll probably finish up in June is what I'm thinking. And then after he's all done with it, then I'll come to council for the assessments.
And that would not include the McSorley portion?
It would, yeah.
It would as
Yep.
well, okay.
Yep. He had, I think it was 81 days that CenturyLink held us up on Bush Street. So we're giving him those 81 days. We're being kind of generous on that, trying to help him out, and then he comes back at us and talks about lawsuits. But we're trying to help him out. He could have been working on other phases of the project, but CenturyLink kind of pulled us along, strung us along, saying, well, we'll get it done next week. A week later, you call them, well, we should be in a week or 2, maybe we'll have it done. And it kept going for 81 days like that, and finally they did get it done. So we decided to give him the whole time, even though he could have been working on other phases of the project.
We had to change our route a little bit, so you'll notice some changes, but we know where we're going according to the bus driver.
Yeah, there were.
Isn't that called blind faith?
Yeah, there were some. I guess I'm not a bus driver, so I didn't realize some of these turns were as dangerous. When you think about it, they are. When, like off of Sanford here, turning off of Sanford is a little more dangerous than me in my car. So we're coming this way instead of going that way. So we're a little bit off on a couple of these now.
Just go up a little bit, maybe right after that.
I don't know. We haven't. Yeah, we haven't pursued anything. They did have to spend what they were saying was right around $500,000 to get it taken care of. So I've been kind of soft on them because of that. There was an expense they didn't plan on, but I think we can try. Depending on what the contractor pushes on us, if he pushes that as an excuse for more money, then we'll definitely go against them for more to try to get the money that we would owe the contractor. Because I heard they also had a project down in Owatonna where CenturyLink was a problem too, last year. So they did have more projects than they could do last year. Because I know in Zumbrota they were, same as here, they didn't get done, they had to do temporary paving over there too. So this is a 2019 project. Yeah, I got some discussion on this one too. We are, north is up on here. We just pulled, this is West Avenue going up the hill. We just pulled in, we're right about here now, parked here. This project was let on Wednesday, and I'll bring it to council for award of a contract or denial, whatever, on the next council meeting. But we had two bids. They were both high. They were low bid was 16% over the engineer's estimate, which isn't good because we were already hoping for good bids because we ended up adding this driveway going up to the water tower here after the CIP was done. So we were hoping we'd get good bids so we could still afford that in there. So we were already 100 short, and then now it's over by 16% over. He was about close to almost 200,000 over, 190,000 over our estimate, or 190,000 over. So with that being over and this not being in the CIP already, we are short by about 325,000. So we've got three options of what we're looking at offering up to council. One is to award the contract, and from the last year's project we just drove through, we still have about 200,000 we feel of additional money in that one that we could take and encumber into this project, and then we'd have to get 125,000 from like the general fund contingency. Or I was trying to talk to Marshall yesterday. He was sick yesterday, so I wasn't able to find out if he had other options to get that other 125. So that would be my recommendation at this time, would be to take 200,000 from that project that we could still afford to take off of it and put onto this, and then add 125,000 from the general fund contingency. The second one would be award the bid. Fitzgerald was low bid, by the way. There was Fitzgerald and Alcon were the two bidders. And the second option would be to award the bid, but don't construct that water tower road. That would save 140,000, and we'd still need to encumber 180,000 from last year's project. That would not use any general fund contingency. That water tower road, though, when you look at this, we would replace the water main that goes up to the tower. We would put curb on the downhill side all the way up, so that would control the water. Right now we've heard feedback from these residents that water comes off this hill down into their yards and does cause problems. So and then we're replacing a wall right up here at the top as well. We can't go up there with the bus, but there's a real poor shaped wall here that is supporting the driveway by the tower. So we'd really like to get that done, because if it gets done a couple of years from now and this is already done down here, all that traffic's going to be going up and down there to remove this, put in the water main, build walls, all that stuff. So it'd be nice to get it all done with this year's project. So that was the second option, would be just to leave that off and just only use money from the other one. And the third one would be just don't award it and rebid it this fall for next year. And that one too, it's a good option because you'd think you'd get a better price if you bid it in the fall for a following year. But all these people are kind of geared up for it, so my recommendation is to go with the first one if we can afford to take the money out of council contingencies and just get the project done. But I don't know
If you pushed it off for a year, would you also push the project
Well,
across the street?
that's the other thing I wanted to talk to Marshall about is how much we have to cut this year, you know, what the budget looks like for the year. I haven't really heard how bad a shape we are or how good a shape we are for next year. If that other project can still be added with this one next year or not.
And when you replace the water main, will it be a bigger water main? Is this one of these situations in which you're...
I think some of these are.
Yeah, there were
'Cause
some small ones.
There was, I think, especially going out Kingman, and that actually goes down Kingman and then goes down the hill to Central Avenue. And I believe that one was undersized. I'm not sure about this one here, if this was undersized
No,
or
I'm
not.
talking about from the tower.
Oh, the tower has, I think, a 10 or 12 inch main going up, and that's enough.
That's all
It would
it
be
is.
replaced with that same size.
Oh, I see.
See, and that one comes down the tower. That one comes down here, goes over to this alley at the corner of, here's Central and here's Grace. Goes over to here, goes down this alley, and then cuts down to Central somewhere down in here, I think. Or no, it goes all the way down to, I think, 9th Street. Goes down there and goes down 9th is where I believe it is. Isn't that's that big one that goes by your place. Yeah. So,
You
but
want to talk about right away here, and then we'll get going.
yeah, this is the one I talked about at the public hearing where we're going to shift the road this way a little bit more, take this sidewalk out of here, have no sidewalk on this side, have a sidewalk on that side and widen this road 2 feet. So this side would move over, the road would get widened, and then 5 foot wide sidewalk over there with a boulevard all the way up the hill, and then it will cross at the top over to Kingman. So the sidewalk will come up this north side of this street here, cross here, come down around here where there is no sidewalk today, and connect over here to the existing sidewalk area over here. And so it'll only be on the one side. And then there won't be any sidewalk going down this way on Kingman. Yeah, and this street widens 2 feet. This one will stay the same width. Yeah. And then, like I say, we'll curb all the way up here. We'll add some extra catch basins here to capture this water because now a lot of it goes over the hill and gets in. So we'll get into our storm sewer system. And we will be removing a portion of Gray Street where it turns here onto Central, coming up, going back down this way. And then we will be having a detour that comes up Central, over on Grace to Walter, down to Walter, and then back over on Hawthorne to get back to this point down here. So this will be detoured all summer.
Okay, we can roll up through that.
When you take out a sidewalk, when people have a sidewalk coming down to it, do you work with them to either take it to their driveway or do you just take it to the street?
We'd probably just take it to the street. I guess we'd have to see what they want. If they want something different.
Work with the homeowners?
Yeah, we would work with them. We'd probably just, unless they say something, we'd probably just connect it to the curb line because that's what it is today.
Is that
But you
street
can
on there? Kellogg, is that on
That's not on here. That was reconstructed. We did that a long time ago.
God, what a hickey street.
It's a tiny one, yeah. But we're just gonna, just the removals will go a little bit into it, but that's it. It's not gonna be the whole thing redone. But the things that the citizens brought up to us is this the north-facing side here with these walls. Those sidewalks never really do clean up very well. They stay icy quite a bit. So the south side, with where you get that sun on it, it does seem to work out a little bit better. Looks like everybody's shoveling minimally. I guess they're thinking April. I didn't shovel my driveway either.
It is concrete.
But you can see the shape of the roads here too. It's they're not in that good a shape, but you know Rick can patch them again for another year if we have to. But I would I'm gonna recommend anyway we do it and find the money.
Okay, so where are we gonna?
Well, listen, we'll go over to Central, and then I'd like to park there for just a second. Once he pulls on there.
That road is right up behind you. Can you stop right here 1 second? Show them the road going up the water.
Yeah, that's the driveway going up to the water tower right behind us. You know, there's really nowhere to turn around for this size vehicle up there, so.
And did you guys talk about parking for this area here?
We did, but it was so steep and we'd have to take out some big trees that we decided not to. I should,
I can hold it.
and I don't know if we're gonna keep the parking on this side.
Can you get by or not?
No.
Yeah, we really, it'll be a little wider around this corner, but I don't really know if we'll have parking there or not. But you can see how steep that is and how many trees we'd have to take out to get it in there. So, we
So, I mean, because that was a conversation with the no parking zones then along that street. So I
Yeah.
just think we do have some parking for this trailhead.
yeah, there'll be parking still along this side. I think it's gonna be like, I believe it was November to April that we were not gonna have parking along there. Cause this, yeah, cause there was no parking on this side. There was gonna be parking still on this side of that street up there, you know, through most of the year.
So, okay, so that wasn't gonna be my question, but so year round though, where's the closest parking year round?
Actually what we've got that would work great, but we've never done anything about it. Over here on West Avenue, there's like a trailhead here too. This is all city property here. There's a driveway here that's shared between this house and the city, and it kind of splits the parking lot. We could create a parking lot right there off of West Avenue real easy. I know when we constructed West Avenue, we thought about, because this contractor stored equipment there, we thought about just graveling it, but we didn't. We still seeded it over. But if council wants to pursue something, that would be real easy to just scrape the topsoil off, gravel that, and have a little gravel pad there, because it's real flat over there.
Will there be parking allowed here? As there is like parallel parking on this side of the street here? It won't be posted as no parking.
I don't remember what we had for parking. Yeah, because you can park there now, right?
Yep.
So then I'm sure we'll still have it the same way there. It's just that we talked about pushing that in so you could either do diagonal or something as you come around that corner and park along there, or perpendicular. But when you look at it, we thought with those trees it'd just be too much to.
I mean, it's a short trail, so as long as you can still get two parallel cars there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
Yeah.
heavily used, but
You-
having some parking up here
Yeah.
year round,
Okay.
I think is important. So,
Yeah.
I mean, at least if this isn't posted right here,
Yep.
and you can still allow
Yeah.
two cars or a car to parallel park there.
It'll still be, one side or the other will be open. This isn't, one side or the other should be open. I guess I don't remember what exactly our parking, future parking looked like for it. I know you could park on this side of this road up around the corner. Around this corner, there's gonna be no parking here and the inside. So it must be we have it on the outside then here.
I mean, I know that. I mean, the residents need this area clear.
Yeah,
In the winter.
yeah.
So I appreciate that and value that for them. as
Yeah.
well.
But we just, because we looked at different ways of doing it and it just didn't seem right to try to widen it to a point where you could park there with those trees there and the steep grade there. I'll try to get you an answer on what exactly our future after the project parking is. Can you write that down here?
I got it.
Oh, you got it down, okay. Okay, now we'll go on to Central Avenue and I'll talk about our state aid overlays for this summer. We're actually on our state aid overlay project. Dean Chamberlain is just finishing up those plans and then we have to send them to MnDOT for review and approval because it is state aid, and then we can let the project after they've approved it. So that one, we were hoping to have that one let the same time as this reconstruct, but we're a little behind on it. And blacktop prices are up. I didn't mention that on that project we just came from for this year. Two of the big reasons for the higher bid were blacktop has gone up nearly $20 a ton, because oil's going up like crazy right now. And he had a high mobilization charge on it, which was like 80,000 more than our mobilization. And then a lot of little things. As you look down the list on abstract, there's a lot of little items that were just a little higher that tweaked up this year. And I think it's probably because of the pressure of so much construction going on everywhere and not enough contractors right now.
And you talk
Or
about
workers.
state aid to them, so they understand the difference between state aid and.
Yeah, and now state aid is our state gas tax dollars, right? This is a project we're going to do this year. We're estimating it's to be about $2 million. I brought to you a couple months ago a resolution asking to advance up to $500,000 of our state aid funds from future allocations. It's our money. There's no interest paid on it. We can borrow from next year up to $500,000. MnDOT was okay with it because they've got plenty in the kitty, statewide kitty. The people haven't used their state aid money, so we can borrow against that up to $500,000. We've got our current allocations. I could go over all that funding with you here. The project funding will be our current amount we have in state aid, which would be about close to $800,000. We have our city annual $400,000 overlay that we're putting into this project. We have sidewalk carryover funds plus this year's sidewalk funds because we're replacing all these little red dots. I don't know if you can see them all. Those are all pedestrian ramps that are being replaced to ADA standards. That sidewalk fund will have about $370,000 in it. And then we have a state aid advance of up to $500,000, which gets us to $2.16 million. So if we don't need all that advancement, we won't use it all, which I'm hoping to only borrow maybe a couple $100,000 of it. But the streets we're going to do on the state, these are all state aid routes. You can claim up to 20% of your roads in a state aid city like us. All cities over 5,000 population are state aid cities. And you get a little piece of that gas tax, and you can claim up to 20% of your roadways. Usually they're your major roadways because you go by your amount of traffic on the road, and the population of the city is how they figure out what you get for money from the state aid gas tax. So you get some of your major roads. So they're hard for us to keep up with just city funding. But some of them we're doing this year are East Avenue from Main to 7th, West Avenue Main to 7th. They're not highlighted on here, but 3rd and 4th Street between East and West Avenue, 5th Street by the courthouse, and HRA is going to be done. We have Central Avenue from 7th up to Grace, which is what we're on right now, and you can see kind of the pavement. But we're going to be taking this out, and we'll do it next year. So we're going to, what I told Dean today, because the reason we're doing that is because we're looking to have temporary parking along here for these people during construction, and the two projects won't match up very well if we have one project saying we're going to park there and the other one saying we're going to mill through here today. So we're just going to not do this street this year. And then also up at where the two projects would connect up there, there'd be different timing on the different milling and overlaying and paving and stuff. So we figured we'll just get that project done this year and then do this street next year. And what I told Dean today is, we'll make sure we save, because this was like $109,000 for this stretch here. And what I told Dean to do is, when we're paying for this, we'll pay state aid, out of state aid, and we'll keep about $109,000 out of our 400 city fund, and then encumber that into next year, so we can use that to pave this, and we still have 400 for other streets next year. So it'll work out. It's just that it's going to wait one more year. We also got up by the high school. We have Guernsey, Goodhue, and Eagle Ridge. Down by Old West Main Street we'll drive through this in a little while, but Withers Harbor Drive over to where the 2021 project starts in the business area. And we're going to do Tyler Road, all 4 lanes, up Tyler Road south from the highway over to Bench Street. 7th Street from Plum out to where we're going to start our construction in 2021 or 2023, and then Featherstone Road. So that's a couple million.
On 7th Street, where you're making the
Oh wait,
Street
right here.
Are any of those crosswalks going to have the flashy lights?
We don't have any planned in there.
Okay.
It's probably a good idea though, isn't it?
I've had residents ask for something just because there's so many children and senior citizens living in that area, so they can cross
That's.
If you could look at that, that would be great.
Do they have certain? Because I would probably think like Centennial would be a good one.
Centennial was the one that was mentioned to me.
Okay.
Like Cooper Ridge? Or
Yeah, and
Cooper
then
Ridge.
by
yeah.
Cooper Ridge would be.
That's Centennial by Cooper Ridge.
I thought Cooper Ridge was
Right at
down.
It's right at that.
Well, yeah, I'll look at that. Write that, or Kay, write that down.
Tell her what to do, Ron.
Yeah, sorry, Kay. Please. But that's a great idea. I don't know why we didn't think of that already, before this. But yeah, that's a great idea. And if we're too far along in the plan design, we can do it by change order or supplemental agreement.
We can
to add
stub it in too if we had to, Ron, and then when we need to put it up, we'll put it
Yeah,
up.
because we'll be doing the ADA improvements there anyway, so all the ped ramps are gonna be done, and that would give us a chance to, because you could get the wiring in that at that time too. So yeah, thank you.
So would you do a project like this sequentially or in parallel?
With
I mean, are you gonna do all these other mill and overlay at the same time? Once you have the equipment in town, are you gonna do this?
yeah, they usually do. The miller will come in and just work for a couple of weeks, just going through milling and all. But the sequence on this one is going to be the concrete contractor is going to be coming in all these dots. They're going to come in first and tear out these curb lines around these radiuses, pour the sidewalks to meet ADA, and then the blacktoppers will come in. They'll patch along the curb, and then the millers will come in and mill everything, and then they'll do the overlay. So it's an all summer project. Should be getting done. We're trying to get both that reconstruction up here and this one done in September, so that we don't run into this November stuff where we're fighting the weather at the very
We
end.
can start heading down
So,
then to John Ridge Park, right, Ron?
and then I'll give you an update either in status or something about what we're thinking on those RRFBs, reflective flashers. But it makes sense to at least do it at Centennial, maybe one other.
Or at least stub it.
Ron, what is inset E and F? I don't know if I heard which ones those last two are.
Featherstone Road.
Oh, yeah, okay.
This is Bent Street, and this is Hay Creek Valley Road.
Okay.
And F is up. The high school sits right
Oh,
over
yeah, okay.
here. Yeah, it's just we've got a state aid loop up there.
No, I have heard you. I just.
Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. So we're going to what now then?
We're gonna go down to John Rich
Yeah.
next.
So I gotta talk about that.
So when we go
I don't
down.
have a printer or anything.
You got a
I just
picture of
wanna
it?
talk about it. So can you pull over right in front of John Ridge Park there?
No.
on Third Street?
No.
Oh, Danny's up.
It'll be a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go down to the fountain. That was a request by John. And did you want anything specific or?
I just wanted to point it out.
Okay, so the fountain at John Rich, I think everyone's well aware. It's been in there for ages. It's not a prolific fountain by any means. It's in dire need of improvements.
Well, my point about it is that is actually one of the most photographed parks in Red Wing, between weddings and family reunions, and it's a beautiful park. I don't know who's doing the landscaping.
Can I
there.
inject one quick thing?
Sure.
Just notice the pavement as you go down. This is a section that'll be overlaid from 7th to Main. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So I guess my point has always been, if you've noticed the park, it's really, or the fountain is really the only element about the park that it really needs improvement, in my opinion. Otherwise, it's a beautiful, beautiful park. Who does the landscaping, by the way? Is this the city or is it volunteers?
No, we do it, yeah.
It's gorgeous. But the fountain is a Charlie Brown fountain, and it's just it'd be a perfect opportunity for creative placemaking. So if we wanted to solicit ideas, I think that would be a
Yeah, so what we've already done is we had a consultant that was working for us on another project. He just put some stuff down for us. We have money in a study this year to do a study, but any comments would be good now before we get the study going. But I want to read a couple things to you that this fellow wrote for us. The existing 30-foot diameter fountain sits within the original 50-foot diameter pool, and a rose garden has been added between the two pools. Okay, so apparently years ago it was a ring around with a pool and the pool in the middle. As long as I've been here, we've been doing roses, so that's 35 years. The existing 30-foot diameter pool leaks, and the nozzle display is visually weak, as John would say, Charlie Brownish. Visual inspection of structure indicates the reduced pool design was poured concrete pad and CMU wall, which means poured. The construction methodology is not durable and typically fails due to the movement of materials during freeze-thaw conditions. Now, right now, the roses are covered. Every year, we spend a full day of hauling leaves down here to cover the roses, and then conversely, a full day to get them all out of there in the springtime. If we don't cover them, they would die. All right, so the leaves protect the roses. Okay. The fountain mechanical system is a single pump in a nearby mechanical enclosure. Pump produces a small water effect. The mechanical system does not include any filtration or water treatment. Because of this, the fountain is drained and refilled as needed when water quality is poor. So if it's starting to get cloudy, we just drain it and fill it back up. These options, we asked them to put some stuff to us together. So leave existing pool, but recoat with a new elastomeric waterproofing, never heard of that. Install new granite coping around top perimeter of a pool. Replace existing mechanical system with one that has filtration, sanitization, and capable of producing a large water effect. Install a new water nozzle display that creates a stronger visual and audible display. Add underwater lights to illuminate fountain effects for nighttime viewing. So that was, this is over a year old now, that was about $120,000 to do that. The next one was remove the existing 30-foot diameter fountain shell and install a new fountain pool, replace the mechanical with the sanitation capable of producing a larger water. Same with the water nozzle, a visual model, add underwater lights, and that was $160,000. And then return fountain to original design of a 50-foot diameter fountain, remove smaller pool, remove soils and rose garden, refinish and waterproof interior of a pool, replace everything again, and add lights. And that option was $300,000. So, no matter what we're going to do to this piece of equipment, it's going to be over $100,000. And we won't be doing it this year. So at some time, you know, when we get, if you have some comments now or thoughts about a pool, and we can send you this, I'll send you this out, and I'll get it to Kay, and she'll send you this, what we have to date, before we start the study, so that if you have any ideas, please send them to us, and then when we have the study, this new study that we have money in the budget for, then we can give them some direction as well. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. We can
Okay,
go on. Where are we going?
Now let's just go up West Avenue to 4th and go out to the hospital.
Okay, so let's go up.
We're gonna go a little bit off of the schedule because the bus driver won't turn left onto Highway 61 from Cedar. So we're gonna go up to the hospital now and then come back, look at the alleys, come back here and go down to the light now. That was another one where I wasn't thinking like a bus driver. These little strips of 3rd and 4th are also going to be milled and overlaid here in the 4th. And then if you look at the pavement on this road, West Avenue is also going to be milled and overlaid up to 7th. So this is really in tough shape what we're driving on right now.
So, Dan, are you going to talk about the hospital? So, Dan, we're going to go past it and then come back around. Okay. On the back side of it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that until like Steve Holt got this last week.
That was a council requested stop too, I don't know.
Yeah. So we're going to go up to the hospital. I think, John, did you ask for this one?
Well, I thought it was timely.
Yeah.
You know, I thought it'd be nice to have everybody at least see the real estate.
Well, yeah, what we'll do is we'll drive around it, come back, and then park on Jackson and then talk a little bit. Or you can talk if you want to first too.
Well, so we're gonna do a quick stop?
Yeah,
We will
yeah,
stop.
We'll stop.
It's just easier.
So it's easier then to just get up and talk.
We'll go around it and come back before, so we can stop right there.
So as we're getting close to the hospital here, I think everybody knows, but I'll remind you that the Planning Commission
opened a public hearing on this project last month, and they continued the public hearing until next week. So the public hearing is still open, and so no decisions have been made by the Planning Commission, which of course is a recommendation to you. The application is to convert the existing building into 94 apartments. Most, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but most, I think 64% of them are efficiencies and ones. But they do have some twos in there, no 3 bedrooms. And then they are looking at, well, let me back up. So when you have an institutional building like this is an R2 zone, you can go out 250 feet surrounding the boundaries of here and allow 10 units per acre in that area to come into, so it's like what I call a density transfer. And I wasn't here, but I believe that the idea of that was to try and incentivize the reuse of these older institutional buildings, like hospitals, like schools, rather than see them being torn down. So they could have over 100 units by that density transfer go into this property. And they're proposing 94 to 100, somewhere in that range. And so you can do that with a PUD, planned unit development, but it has to be done through a conditional use permit process. So that's the application. There's been some talk about rezoning this property. We're not rezoning it, it's a conditional use permit. And then he has proposed adding some structured parking over here. It was at 3 levels, now I think it's at 2. They do not, when you reuse an existing building like this, you don't have to have any covered parking or anything in garages. It could be all surface parking. And if you count up, so two parking stalls per unit, if you count up all the parking stalls in this area, he could meet that with the existing parking. But he is proposing some garage structure. And so anyway, the neighborhood meeting was held Tuesday night. It's coming back to the Planning Commission, like I said, Tuesday. They really have 3 options. They can recommend approval with conditions, they can recommend denial with reasons, and they can table it again. And so I think there's a lot of comments that we've received in writing. You can go and look at all those now. There's a big petition signed. It's now all live. You can see that. Comments really are decrease of property values, too much traffic added to this neighborhood, adding rentals into an area that's more owner occupied and single family, the character of the neighborhood. At the neighborhood meeting, they asked Mayo, Steve Gutschel was there representing Mayo, to consider demolishing it, turning it into maybe lower density owner like townhomes, adding a park, a lot of comments like that.
Was it well attended?
Very well attended, standing room only. And so the public hearing is open, so we can't really talk about it. I don't want to discuss this and provide any opinions one way or another, but if you have some questions, I can answer them, unless I feel like it's going into the arena of a public hearing arena. I don't want to do that, so.
That's a good point. You should point out also there's a really interesting easement from that garage to 4th Street that really kind of inhibits what you can do with this property because of the nature of that permanent easement.
Yeah, that's right.
So he actually has a driveway that's cutting all the way through the parking lot. There is no driveway to that garage.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting about this project, and this is really why I wanted to stop here, because we're going to be hearing a lot about it. It has activated the neighborhood. They've gotten very engaged. They're very sensitive to the idea that there's a need for housing in the community. but they want to be proactive in proposing solutions. And you will be hearing a solution coming forward from a group of neighborhood, and some of these people are very prominent. You'll be very familiar with their names, about what can be done with this space. Because one of the big concerns is with Jefferson being purchased and being converted into a daycare, unless something is worked out with a green space in that will have to be fenced daycare playground equipment. So it won't necessarily be available to the public. So there may be a real loss of green space in this entire neighborhood. So that's just a consideration. But I just wanted people to see the building, understand the scale of what the project is that we're talking about or that's being discussed. And if you can, come on Tuesday, because it's going to be a full house. It really is.
Yep, Steve Gudgel said I think there's 130,000 square feet of space in that building. This street has been vacated. We looked at, can you do something with this space in terms of if you put a structured parking over here, but there's utilities under here, we can't do, or they can't do that.
So Dan,
But this is
I
vacated,
wasn't
the street.
so clear about with his application, and maybe it wasn't part of his application, but is he proposing gutting the building and rebuilding apartments within the structure, or is he planning on converting the existing interior to?
No, there's a lot of walls that have to be removed.
Okay.
A lot of walls. Yep. So I would consider it more of gutting it.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
I have a theoretical. If this, suppose you were able to demo this building, how many low-density single-family lots would you
20, and that includes the 3 that are there. So basically 10 per lot,
Okay.
and to meet our zoning requirement. 60-foot wide lots.
Thank you.
What would those lots sell for?
Don't know.
An interesting option is if you're familiar with the Milwaukee Avenue in Minneapolis, which is right off Franklin Avenue. You know, the turn of the century, affordable housing and available labor was an issue just like it is now. And the solution they came up with, it was a 2-block stretch of quarter-sized lots. It was a rent-to-own situation. It's more of a row house situation. And cars were discouraged. In fact, cars were prohibited. So the idea of discouraging automobiles is actually something I think the city should consider. I mean, if we're going to be green, you know, it means not having cars, by and large.
All right. Okay. Let's go down to Franklin and then
Now we'll go down and look at.
of course, you know, if you look at those alleys.
Bus driver won't drive through the alleys.
Yeah, he's not much of a bus driver. We're not
I always like to hear the I always like to hear the bumper scrape on the back end, but he won't do it this year. So we're just going to drive by the entrances of them. You can look up them from 2 different directions, and talk about them a little bit. We'll drive. The first one we'll drive by will be. You can see when we get there. On this side, you'll see the alley that was constructed last year, and on this side, you'll see one that's going to be constructed this year. And we brought. And there's 2 alleys that we're going to construct. So then we'll go over and look at the other one. But last council meeting on the 22nd.
It tipped over.
No, this council meeting on the 22nd, we'll be receiving engineers' reports on these 2 alleys through a resolution and ordering the hearing, which would be at the end of May, right after Memorial Day. And then somewhere in between there, somewhere in May, we'll have a neighborhood meeting. We haven't got the date set, but we'll definitely get that out to council members when we have the neighborhood meeting on it. But usually these alleys are pretty well received because they're, if you look at these 2, they're not in very good shape. There's a lot of potholes in them, and busted up blacktop.
Plus the water drainage.
Plus the water drainage is an issue because there's no curbing on it, so the water just, of course, goes towards the low side, which is the river side. You know, it goes into those yards. Where when we reconstruct it, we put a curb on that side and bring it out to the street, so none of those people on the north side of the alley will have that water coming into their yards anymore. But we'll drive through them here. That way, if everything goes as we plan and council approves the engineer's reports, orders the hearing, then has the hearing and orders the project, we would have it ready for Public Works to start construction sometime in June then. Yeah, and they'll just stop where they can see up the alleys. This is the one we did last year. You can see how we put the curb in. It controls all that water on the downhill side of the alley, and then we just pave up the match driveways on the other side. This is, yeah, there's a lot of snow on it yet, but you can see the rutting and the holes and stuff like that in it. It's not in the greatest shape. And that one, again, curb will be on this left side, going all the way down, controlling that water from the alley. And then the one, we'll drive around and go up that next street, but the second alley down, these are the two in a row here that will be for this year.
Is this one complete?
Yep, that one's complete. That one we assessed this winter. These are what Dan mentioned, 60-foot lots. That's what this whole area was platted in, 60-foot wide lots. Some of them have had combinations, and some of them have had extras added to them. So that you'll see some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller, but that's what they originally were platted as, 60-foot lots. So it's 300 feet block to block. Typical assessment, there's 300 feet both sides, so it's 600 feet, and it's $15 a foot this year for reconstruction. What's that?
You want me to do math?
Well, you talked about cost,
Well,
but
just last
the
year.
average,
What,
the
what
average,
was it cost last year?
the average lots. We was looking at the one. I think it's this one. You can see this apron will get done. Whenever there's bad aprons, we do them too.
About 1,500 was it or something?
These are about $1,000 per property on this one. I think this one was a little lower because there's different number of properties on each block. It's the same assessment amount, but there's a little bit different because of the number of property. We assess by the property. We assume on alleys everybody gets the same benefit, even if you have a 20-foot property or a 100-foot property. It's still an access, basically, is what we call it on an alley. It's not like a street. So, but you can see the shape of them. And those are some small public works projects for the summer. Well, as opposed to some big ones that they have.
As he got jabbed in the leg. Dan, where do you
But
want to stop
it's
on
the
Old
type
West
of thing they do. They work on those kind of in between, you know. Then if you got like a storm or something, or
Bauer,
other
we
things
thought
that need
Bauer built.
attention more, so they'll pull off of
Bauer
those
built parking
and
lot.
do those.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we thought.
Yeah.
So now we'll go down to West Main and look at that project.
Thought. Wish I brought some coffee.
Yeah, nothing, styrofoam cups.
Stop before and talk about Jackson.
No, we don't really need to.
Just stop at Bauer.
I think so. We just stop at Bauer because that's close to where the bridge spot is too.
Have them look at Jackson Street when we went by. They look for Lester's Jackson, or when the project starts for recon, we'll probably say it now and he gets it.
Yeah.
2021.
2021. That one won't start till 2021. And we'll talk about that
Well, that's right,
scheduling.
it
Make
is,
sure
yeah.
we talk about that scheduling too.
Oh, I forgot to bring the schedule.
The what?
Did you bring the schedule?
I've got it
Okay.
right here.
It's a walking, talking.
It's all gonna be designed by
That's what I
April.
forgot to print.
It all has to be designed and MnDOT by April.
Jay-Z, no. Yeah. Okay, you got that in your head?
Well, yeah, that's when federal plans have to be on it, or you don't get your money. Got it.
I don't know. You guys are the project managers.
Not right now. They're not saying it is. Right now, they did. Yes, as of yesterday, I didn't look today. But they were showing Billsmead. You see that picture of Billsmead? Holy Christ, was it coming over? Dakota County posted one. It was really hot. Really hot.
On the dam?
Yeah. It was really good.
Where'd you see that?
I don't remember where I saw it. I don't know if I saw it on the news or if I saw it on Facebook.
You're a Facebooker.
Only if someone tells me I should be. Plus, my brother's birthday was, so I had to wish him happy birthday. That's the only thing I write on Facebook is happy birthday. Not much of a Facebook guy.
I didn't even do that.
As we turn into Old West Main here, we're going to go down and park in the Bauer built lot, assuming it's allowed. But we're going to go by the infamous car wash site here, and I'll give you an update on that. So the owner of the car wash, he and I talk a lot, and he does have someone that's marketing the property, and Starbucks is still interested in it, but nobody else. And part of the challenge is this power line that goes diagonally through the property. And so he's been talking to me more about this western half of the block that Starbucks wouldn't need, whether there might be an interest in the city acquiring that and maybe turning it into some parking. And I sketched it out, maybe about 15 stalls you could get there. So we're seeing if that can move forward or not. So we're continuing to work on that. And then it's probably timely that you got an email from me yesterday about the pedestrian bridge, because we've got a question about that. And so you know that Ron put a good report together recently for you on requesting some additional funds. When we have always been looking at the Jefferson right-of-way there next to Kelly's where his deck is for the Ped Bridge, we always knew that there might be some challenges with, there's an access issue for the Kruger property here that we may have to pay some damages for restricting more of the access into that property. You know, there's the deck issue. The deck already has an agreement. It can be terminated, but they're using not quite half of that right of way. And then as we were looking at the numbers of the pedestrian bridge as it landed over in Bay Point area, the structure cost, the more you go west, the more costly it is. So if we could shift it over easterly, you would potentially save about $250,000 of structure costs of the bridge on the other side, the north side of the railroad tracks.
Yeah, that's going right through this building here.
Yep. So I think it was actually Ron that thought of the idea, well, what about this property here that has this vacant building between Kelly's and Bayside?
And one of the reasons why is with the updates to the Bay Point Conservancy and the proposed future improvements there. One of the issues is realigning Levy Road. Now some of these are future projects and potential. We're looking 10 years out. We always have to pre-plan this type of thing. But if we're doing that, which was a reason why the roundabout was put on, again because of potentially realigning Levy Road, that we would have that amphitheater and the berm and such. So we're looking at it. Well, if we're going to do a berm or something, why don't we bring the bridge a little bit over and land the landing right on that berm? And so that's where we do get a fairly big reduction in costs. This kind of lines up also to that greenway right down there where there's potential for future parking back there. So the reconstruction of Levy Road kind of fits in. So it all kind of just tied together, so to speak. So and this again came through that process with Dan leading the project management team and the public advisory council that we put together over the last, Dan, how long have we been meeting? Over a year?
Yeah, over a year.
Over a year with these groups and putting some of the ideas together.
This kind of shows what Ron's talking about. This one here shows it on the Jefferson alignment. This yellow line would be the bridge, but it's actually what we're thinking now is coming through, like I say, this building right here, which would be about here, coming over, and there's a berm that would, because you got to stay high across the tracks, and then you'd have a berm that would drop you down into the park over here. And the current Levy Road runs along here. Here's the bulkheads, comes along here and hits the roundabout right here. What he's saying about realignment, instead of that alignment, the road would now come down where this gray road is shown here and then come back on by the first bulkhead. And the bridge would span both the tracks and that road. And then there would be room for events in here, lawn events and stuff like that for the park.
So going into that, that's when we did bring forward with, if you remember, the DNR Connecting Trail Grant application. So again, that's a trail connection. And then also for the, that was the map that we submitted with the app. with the, if you remember, the Legislative Citizens Commission on Minnesota Resources, the lottery funding, the Environmental Natural Resources Trust funding, which just went on Friday. That's where we put in additional requests for about, the number off the top of my head, about 680,000. So we're hopeful that we're going to be successful in that. You know, we can never guarantee that, but if we don't try, we won't know. But this ties into all that future planning. You know, we have to think that 5-10 year window. As for me, as for doing capital planning and such, I'm always looking out that 3, 4, 5 year window. How is that going to interrelate? So that we make sure that we, when we're spending the money, we're spending it right. And we're planning for the future.
So, scheduling. Old West Main, reconstructed from Buchanan back to where we left off. Here's Highway 61. That came down to here. That segment of Old West Main, 2021, we have federal money. It's locked in for that year, or else we'll lose the money. The bridge, we have federal money for 2020, which is next year. So we've got to get designing on this. So we've got to get this figured out exactly where it's going and get the right of way if we need it, or tell Kelly's to get their deck off our right of way so we can put a bridge there, one of the two. We're dealing with the same guy on both of them, or same owner. So it's going to be up to them, I feel, if they want the deck or do they want the building, because we own the right of way. We can go there without any question. So we got to get that done soon here. We got to get this bridge designed, because plans have to be into MnDOT for review for federal projects by April 1st. So next April we have to have plans done. What we're looking at doing, I'm not on the PMT, but working through Jay Owens, he's come up with a schedule where maybe we can push this bridge back a little, but we still have to have the plans done and approved by MnDOT, even if we don't own the right-of-way. If we're going to go here, we can get a right-of-way certificate. They'll just approve the plans contingent on the right-of-way certificate coming in, which could come in later, and then we could bid the project later in the summer, next summer, start on the bridge in the fall, do them both with the same project, start the bridge in the fall of 2020, finish up in the spring of 2021 when the road is being built. That's kind of what we're thinking right now.
And I have one other comment also. We do have another application, local road improvement project, if you remember that one, for $1 million to help out with the costs on Old West Main. Now that is was part of the governor's bonding proposal for $10 million for that program, and that's a statewide competitive program. So again, we don't know legislatively what's going to happen with that. And then also the other funding alternative is 2020 is a state bonding year. We did receive the information from management and budget that if communities are interested in capital projects for communities, if you some of the council members remember, we ranked some projects, so we may be bringing forward for the council's review and recommendations should we proceed for state bonding for 2020 in the bonding cycle. This potentially could be another avenue for funding for this project, or in other projects, our perennial projects were the Riverfront Trail. We did go after this last time in 60. We're not successful, but you know, so those type of things.
So the appraisal was just received on this property. We have to have it reviewed by a review appraisal process because there's federal funds, and so we want to get that review appraisal done, and then we can initiate an offer and negotiations, and you know, part of it really is, and I've told Rick Anderson that if we could come to some fair agreement on the acquisition, we would propose to you, City Council, to vacate half of Jefferson so that his deck could essentially be on his property forever. He would have fee title, and he wouldn't have to worry about whether the city would agree to this or that in the future. That's part of the kind of deal moving forward. But we don't know. Not worst case, but we always can go back to Jefferson. That's not out of the question at all to go back
It
to
costs
that
more to
plan.
build it, but if we're at a stalemate on this property, that's our last
Or
option.
not do it.
How much is that building even being used? Has they been that many
Just
years
storage.
since they condemned it?
Just storage.
It's a near condemned situation.
Yeah. Yep.
It's infested with bees.
We're not getting a valuation on much on that building because there isn't a whole lot there.
Does he have any plans for that, other than?
He has said that the building would become a deli, I think.
Ice cream shop, deli?
Ice cream shop, deli was his ultimate plans.
So Ron,
He's also said that the deck is more of a moneymaker for him than this. Well, at least right now. I don't know about in the future. It could be a big moneymaker too.
best case scenario, and we get all the grants and funding that you hope to get, what would be the out-of-pocket expense to the city for this?
Right now in the CIP, the city has about $900,000, I think, in total budget, 860 or 900, I forget the number.
And I don't really understand why it's more expensive if we did Jefferson. And when you say more expensive, does that include not the building?
Yes.
If we go back to the bridge
structure,
I think. So you can kind of visualize the structure, John is right, is here once you get over here to get to this berm. If it's over at Jefferson, which is
So
there,
it's
you
just-
can see the structure would about double in length, and that's that
But the
structure
east
cost.
to west part, so the east to west part on top of the berm would be longer. Is that
Yeah.
just, is that railed? That's not part of the bridge though, is it?
This is the
No, the east to west.
Oh,
yeah,
this
up
here?
there. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a structural. That'd be a bridge too.
That would be elevated.
Because
Okay.
this
Yeah.
is the one crossing the tracks. It has to stay up high, and the road, the future road. And then this one is just, this would be coming down at a steeper grade.
Yeah,
And this would be almost flat.
And that we have to meet the 5% right, the ADA accessibility, because this would be the, I mean, that's been our big push with the funding applications also, is that we need to provide that accessible route and for all abilities for people to have access to those amenities down
So
there.
what you'd have is basically.
But John, to get back to your point, could it be kind of reconfigured and we don't even think about that berm or what's happening in the future? Then we kind of build stuff, and then maybe in the future, 5, 6, 8, 10 years, somebody's got to come in and rip up what we did. Yeah, that's a possibility. But then, again, I mean, you could be changing stuff that you spent money on.
No, I understand your logic.
So I mean that's the logic. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
so there would be an abutment here, a pier, so to speak, here that holds this up, and then an abutment over here.
Got it.
So
there would be, passageway underneath this too, for walking.
And what would it look like? Would it look like just a core 10 construction, 12 feet wide?
For the bridge,
Yeah.
the bridge is going to be like a pre-stressed.
I've got a drawing or
yeah,
something.
you
I
got
can show
you got a visual, Dan? Pre-stressed, prefab.
Can pass this around.
Because of the railroad, it has to have.
That's not I wouldn't say that's a final
no,
design.
but
It's a preliminary.
Basically, there's a couple of companies that make these bridges, and a good example is actually right down here on Rick Withers, that
Yeah.
bridge there. We've got some of
trail.
the little trail. No, steel. That they make, and then you pop them down.
Pioneer Road.
Pioneer Road's
County.
got one. But for the railroad crossings and such, that has to be fenced and there's got to be certain protections. Then also on railroad, Ron and I actually met with CP at their offices in Minneapolis here about a week ago. We had a very, very good meeting. They are actually going to be very helpful here because there is that also issue of people making unsanctioned rail crossings across the track to get up here in the summertime. And they want to eliminate that, so that eliminates that safety issue there. So, because it happens a lot. If you're out around the deck out here and you look, you can see the path.
Where's the path? Where's the informal path?
It's coming right from the waterfront.
That's the last one I put in like that.
Pardon?
Slide it in, I thought it would-
We don't need any right of way, but we do need what's called an air permit right. And she said based upon what we're doing, that's going to be negotiable. Typically, it might be about $5,000 or something, and then plus some flagging. We have budgeted, I think, $12,000 in there, but getting from her based upon our elimination of those crossings, I mean, it was a very good meeting. That our costs hopefully aren't that much. That was my impression. Ron?
I've never had a good dealing with
We
no.
No.
That's the only way.
No, we had
That
we
seems like a very low estimate.
we had a
I'm just telling you.
we had a very good meeting with the railroad. I will say that.
I
They'll
mentioned
start
they
out
would
good.
have.
Then when they start sending that bill every other month.
Yeah, then they one thing they recommend is we bid in the flagging with the contract, that the contractor pays for it. Of course they'll put it as a part of their mobilization or something within the contract, but at least that way the contractor doesn't tell them they're gonna be working on it for 4 weeks and then just pull off the job for a week, and then CP's sitting here billing us for it. He'd be billing them, so then they're gonna be more scheduled, you know, more concerned about the schedule. That's what CP told us, always bid that in so that they have to pay
Right.
for it. Even though you will pay for it in the bid, they will be more conscientious of their scheduling because of it. Otherwise, contractors just walk off and
We're
let,
not bound by having one of their, having to have one of their contractors do any portion of this, right?
oh yeah, on this
Around
this
the
thing,
bridge.
yeah, they wouldn't have to do anything here.
No, it'd be
No.
contract, it'd be within the contract for the bridge construction.
All they do is review the plans to assure that we have the clearance that they need underneath our new
Correct.
bridge.
Double check it.
Yep.
We
Aaron, did you
didn't
have a
talk
question?
much about the redesign of the street itself, but it's gonna go to 60-degree angled parking, 6-foot sidewalk width, and about 8-foot what we call amenity zone. That varies in width. With no dedicated bicycle lane, it'd be a Sharrow design, because if we did that, we'd have to take some away from the pedestrian. So it's kind of trying to balance out pedestrian area needs versus bicycle, and we've come to that recommendation so far.
Yeah,
so.
This is also,
The infrastructure that's underneath that road now gonna stay there, or is that gonna get moved to the new road?
which road?
Water and sewer.
What, here?
On Levy. We'll go.
I'm sure-
We're gonna go down there.
That would that would
Oh.
stay over there, yeah.
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 But we'll go down there and talk about that.
But then there would also be, when you get over to Jackson Street, the corners there do propose to have bump outs at all 4 corners for crosswalks. And as you come down, they had one shown here, but they're going to take that off where the bridge comes over and put it over at Jefferson. There'll be some bump outs there for that crossing too.
Parking.
To add parking.
And then Jackson Street.
Oh, and I guess Washington too.
Jackson Street redone too, Ron.
Yeah, isn't that what I said
you said
first?
that, yeah.
Jackson, and then I guess, yeah, they do have bump outs here at Washington. So there'll be crosswalks at each of the streets that have
Be a
bump outs.
crosswalk at the- If the bridge came across here, there wouldn't be a bump out here. You'd
Not,
have to then walk
it,
down and.
walk over that way to get across, or walk this way to get across.
We're gonna lose, we brought that up to the PAC, and we're looking at parking spaces.
shows it on
We-
here.
Yeah, it shows it. We've got a little change for that, but we'd lose 4 or 6 spots.
Six, I
Six
think.
spots.
So the businesses are very involved in all discussions on this project. Kip has started a group that he mans, and so they're weighing in heavily about their thoughts.
Yeah, you can see we're not too far from the corner.
So
So it's a matter of where you're going across the road, if you go that way across or this way across.
And-
Now, right now, everybody just crosses
yeah,
everywhere.
and unfortunately, that's probably gonna be the same, even if when it's all said and done, is that people are still gonna maybe cross wherever. What, Roger? I mean, so, but that was the trade-off for parking.
Aaron, did you have a question before that we didn't get to? Okay.
I'm gonna put it down.
I just want to make another sort of comment that's really important. And I've talked to Jay about the bike lane here, and I know that that's really felt really strongly by the businesses here. I think as a community, it's really important about walkability and bikeability in our community. So I'm hoping that as we design this with the Sharrows, that it's really prominent, because this could be a really good place then to sort of educate our drivers about what those Sharrows do. So if we're gonna go with Sharrows here because it meets the needs of the business owners here, we have to meet the residents' needs too. And I just really want us to use this as a place to sort of teach drivers what a Sharrow means, how to share the road, so that we can really sort of spread that education out throughout the rest of the community. Because I mean, I think that with our narrow streets in Red Wing, we are going with a lot of Sharrows, right?
Yeah.
So we just, so this is a prime opportunity, starting here, going forward, to really educate our residents about sharing the roads.
Yep. What we find out a lot of times is, in order to put bike lanes in, you're getting rid of this parking lanes. And as soon as you go to a neighborhood meeting and say all your parking lanes are coming out, everybody just flips out. So that's where the problem comes in. But that's why we do Sharrows, and those can be pavement markings. They can be signs on the sides. Here it'd be tough because you are out beyond the diagonal parking before you get a sign. So there'd have to be painted Sharrows on the road that display that.
Just
That's
make
what
it
we did
really
down on.
prominent here, so that we can.
Yeah, that's what we had done down on Levy, too, when we built it. I think we had signs and paint on the road both.
Before we put the trail on.
That was the same time.
Okay.
Okay.
Then you're gonna have to overlay.
Yeah, so then when we get up here where this project ends at Buchanan, that's this year our mill and overlay project will start from that point and go up to Withers Harbor Drive. So just kind of notice the pavement once you get past Buchanan here. It's in pretty tough shape too.
And then all the utilities through here too. When
Yep.
we rebuild.
Yeah, so the reconstruction will go up to this block right here. And this pavement is in pretty tough shape here all the way out to Withers.
Now you're starting your overlay.
Yep. Overlay starts here. Yep. I did. Yeah. Now we'll just
So
we'll,
then
we'll go out and we'll drive through the Spring Creek Road project.
Stay on Service Drive, then turn by
Take
the
any questions on that. I'll tell you what we're
Credit
kind of
Union
scheduling
going
there.
that way. Yeah.
Me?
Did you know there's 349 rooms in this area?
Rooms? It's crazy. From when I first came here, there was hardly a hotel in town.
Just in this
Yeah,
area?
the old scrap out here across from the Spring Creek. Days in down there in the St. James.
Yeah, I remember that. St.
Yeah.
James and
Yeah.
maybe out here, Parkway.
Parkway, and then that
And
days
Sterling.
in Sterling is what it was. Yeah.
Is that the one that burnt down?
No, where
Smoking
the
Oak was?
well that one. Well, was there?
No, there was never one there.
Wasn't there?
No,
It was.
that was
There were
residential.
two right next to the Parkway, right? There was the Parkway and something else.
Yeah.
And last year we overlaid Withers Harbor up to a point. You can see the point on the pavement there. We stopped there because we didn't want to get up into here and have to deal with these pedestrian ramps. We knew this state aid was coming this year. We were going to take care of those pedestrian ramps and make them ADA accessible.
There's one
So
of the
we'll go
bridges.
down to that point this year.
You did? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, on this side. Yeah.
Same on Pioneer Road.
Kind of like that.
You know, trail
Remember
there.
that one?
Right by the county shop, down below the county shop. This end of the county shop.
On the upstream side.
Going towards Pioneer Pioneer Trail.
Right alongside the traffic bridge, there's a regular bridge, a pet bridge.
Okay.
So now on the Spring Creek Road project, we have a meeting coming up this week with the contractor, which is Fitzgerald. We're going to go through a bunch of change orders and work orders from last year's construction. I'll be bringing those to the next council meeting. There's 8 of them. Some of them are minor with no change in cost at all, like changing blacktop mixes. One will be extending the project because it was supposed to be completed last November, and due to utility issues from minor utility companies to the structures being 6 weeks behind on all deliveries, he's got some extra days coming. So what we're going to do, we're looking at and we got to get his input on it at this meeting. We're looking at completion date on the highway of May 24th, which finishes it up before Memorial Day, and then the rest of the project by May 31st. He has told me, Jason Fitzgerald, that he wants to get in here and get out of here, get it done, which I hope he's truthful on it, because it's less money that we got to spend for inspection and staking and that kind of stuff, and it just gets it done quicker so we can get on to our other projects. Some of the things that have to be done, there's a bunch of highway work. There's some turn lanes that have to be extended and cut out, some curbing to be put in, areas where sidewalk wasn't quite finished because, like I say, in November we had a freeze up really fast, a little early last year. So the concrete contractor was doing as much as they could, but they couldn't quite finish it. So that'll get done this year. There's all the striping has to be done. There's still some loop detectors in the highway to put in for the signal. The signal's working, but it's not working to its what it can, and what its option or capability is.
A lot of times you gotta stop there and,
Yeah, there's loop detectors for 61 that aren't in place yet, and we didn't want to put them in when it was too cold, and because they're just going to saw the pavement, drop wires in, and then put in some kind of a caulk, a real high quality caulk. We didn't want to do that in November, so they're going to get that done. Then that one is also going to be interconnected with the one at Tyler Road, so that the two can work together. But that's not connected yet. I think that is connected already, but it can't sense cars coming on 61 to the signal yet because those advanced loop detectors aren't in place. But so that's part of it this year too. I said all the striping, and then all the turf establishment. The only turf we've got permanent establishment right now is on the would be the south side of Spring Creek Road. That side down there. We did connect that water main, which Public Works has wanted for a long time, so they were happy about that. There was a loop there that wasn't connected, so that project did it. Oh, we're on it right now?
Yes.
Yep, so there's a bunch of sidewalk here that's not completed. Too bad we can't see more. There's a lot of snow out there, but Seymour, yeah. But what we did here in this section is we widened the road so we can have parking on both sides, because Sargent's really likes that for May and June when they're busy. And we slid the road this way so that the back of the new sidewalk is where the back of the curb used to be. So we just went into the highway ditch a little more, and MnDOT was fine with it, so we did that. We do have to work, once we're all done here, on vacating a section of this roadway for them. That was part of our agreement when we bought the corner property from them, so that'll be something that'll be coming in the next 6 months or so once this all gets completed and we get caught up with things and work on that with them. North Service Drive, the old one, we still have to have that renamed. We put a name placard up of North Service Way. I want to talk. I haven't talked to these people yet, but we got to come to you to get that approved. So it's not officially North Service Way yet, but they put the sign up because it was in the plan. But I do have to bring that back to you. But I wanted to talk. We'll have a meeting, and I think they're talking about May on that condemnation here. So I'll talk to them next time I see them, and then I can always talk to the car wash as well. They're the only ones really affected by that.
Anything else you want to talk about here?
That big pile of dirt we just drove by, Jason Fitzgerald put it there because Virgil Seaward, which lives back there, requested it there. We told Jason, you don't have a grading permit for it. That's yours until he gets a grading permit. If he doesn't get one, you're hauling it out. And he said, yep, I understand it. So there's no grading permit yet. Virgil was in my office last week. I told him he's got to go down and talk to Steve Cohn about getting a grading permit because he wants to level that all out here. And I said, you got to get a grading permit because I told him that that's Jason's dirt and he's hauling it out if you don't get a permit. So we'll see where that goes. And Jason wants to get in here and out of here in May. So I told Virgil, it's pretty, you got to get in pretty quick to get that permit. So we'll see where that goes. But we can't just let him level it out. This? I don't think it would be. It depends how far back he goes, but I think it's going to stay pretty close here. It's probably going to be pretty close. You know, because an acre is only like 200 by 200, so it might be over. Oh, well, I think it's the amount of fill too. If it's like, I don't know how many yards of fill, but I told him he's got to talk to Steve about that. Steve knows all that stuff. So
this is kind of a mess. This is gonna stay like this.
Good question. I'm not sure.
We were just talking about that.
I want to get
we
through.
go after houses.
Yeah, I want to get through the condemnation process and then look at that stuff. Because that's going to determine too, on the other side of this fence, that open area is all ours. And that's going to determine too what the future of that is. For now, we're just going to level it off and seed it. But I know they want that property.
Well, I'm talking about all the crap.
Yeah, this just got hauled in over the winter. Yeah.
We'll probably have to talk to Steve about that.
That zoning and yeah.
I'm not sure it's all theirs either.
Yeah, I don't know whose it is. No idea.
I think we get the project done and then worry about that. And then we cut into that. I just want a safer intersection.
You can remind them that you're still in condemnation.
Yeah, we're supposed to have the condemnation hearing in May, but they haven't set the date yet, so I think that's going to be extended too. It's only a month away here. But this drive access is one that the Seaward said there's no way they'd be able to utilize and get in there, but look at they're parking cars all along it, and they still are able to get in there. That's kind of amazing to me that they didn't think they could make that whole corner without anything there. Now all of a sudden they got everything parked there, and they still do it.
Are they still going to put the garage
Jason
doors?
Fitzgerald hooked up his big lowboy and went around this and didn't hardly use any of that gravel. So I'm sure their use can be done well.
Are they going to flip the garages around like they were talking about?
They want to, and that was part of the reason we're in condemnation, because they wanted the city to pay for all that.
I see.
And we don't feel it's our expense. It shouldn't be. We took access away. We gave a new access, and that we didn't buy any land from them.
When is the condemnation process?
It was supposed to be having a hearing in May, but the attorneys are lining that up, and they haven't got the date yet, so that's why I'm saying it's probably going to be pushed till June now. But sometime this summer, spring or summer, we should know. Now we'll go out to the fire station, and Chief Draper will be out there to give a little tour.
That's a restroom stop though, so do the restrooms first maybe, and then we'll do the tour, okay? Your only chance.
And we'll go through that south side by Woodens on the way back. We'll cut through there, and I'll talk about a couple of things there too. I can't say it. I can't say it. I just can't do it. So we're supposed to be 9:20.
We're not.
9:35. Yeah, we're 15 behind.
We're gonna make it. We'll make it.
We'll cut Shannon down to 5 minutes. I didn't even show this. I thought if they had any questions, I could show it. This is supposed to go before that, because that doesn't, you can't really see that, so when we get up there, we'll. Yeah.
All right, well, good morning and welcome to your fire station, number 2. I know that we're all very aware of the history of this project, but I just wanted to cover some things real briefly, and then we'll go on our tour. And as we go around, if you have any questions, ask. You know, this is kind of the opportunity for us to showcase what you have built for us, and also, you know, how we're going to be using it. And so first, when I was hired in 2016, one of the many projects that I would say I was tasked with was get this building, you know, done. And so it started with a needs and assessment. We looked at the plans, we looked at the project and its total, looking at the assessments that were done in the past. We reduced the size of the building, bringing it down almost $1 million. And so that was a big accomplishment, something that Public Works helped with. You know, the police department, it was a team looking at every square foot on that blueprint and assessing, do we need this? And how are we going to use it? And so the result of that is this today, this project being completed. And so we are really grateful for this, and so is the community. We're hearing all kinds of good things. And so let's take a tour, and if we have questions, definitely ask. So here's the main lobby. This area is set up with a tier of security. And so this vestibule here is open 24/7, so people can come into this vestibule. There is a doorbell system so that people can contact people that are in the station. But then this next door is locked. Then into this lobby, that door would be locked. And so police department, when they have people out here or when we're open to the public for events, this area becomes a public space very easily without interfering with operations. All right, so this is the training room, kind of also a community room. This is that space that's available to the community to use for different events, also for voting. You know, when we were designing it, we spoke with city staff and really kind of reviewed what is needed to be a voting site so that they could set this up for that. We can do our training here. The occupancy with tables is for 65 people. We're still waiting on a couple of the tables to arrive. One thing as we go around the building, we were able to save a lot of money. The firefighters, you know, put the tables together. You know, we went on the internet and found you know, real good cost, competitive prices for the tables, the chairs, and then we assembled them. So that was one of the areas that we saved money. So this room is also available for the police department. I know there's been a lot of conversation about the use of force simulator, which I know Chief Pullman can speak about a little bit more. But we already have set that up. The wiring is above the ceiling for that system, and so they'll be able to put the system in and not have to take it completely out. As I understand it, the screen is different, and so the screen would have to be taken down each time. But we've tried to make it as easy as possible to make this a multi-purpose room, definitely. And then off to the side here is a storage area where they'd be able to store their equipment for the use of force. It's also our IT equipment. If we kind of walk around and take a quick look, it's something I'm very excited about. Yes?
Is this room available for like construction meetings if we have
Yes.
meeting for our, because we get packed into ours so tight people have to sit off.
It is available on, there's a calendar.
Oh, there will be,
on the
okay.
It's already set up on the public drive or public calendars.
Just Fire Station 2 calendar or
We'll go with
something
that.
like that? Okay.
Yes.
All right, yeah.
I don't
that'd be
remember what it's
awesome.
called.
Neighborhood meetings, if we have them out in the
Yes.
city, we like to keep them.
Yep, it is available for city staff and also the public. We'll have a way for the public to sign up and kind of check out the room for whatever events.
Great, is this a nice size?
Yes, definitely. So this storage room is going to be set up for all our training props, for the police department's training props and things like that, but also our IT. On the left there, that IT rack, they gave us, that is our station alerting equipment. And so when a call comes in, the speakers turn on, the lights turn on, the gas stove shuts off, there's a lot of things that occur. There's timers out in the apparatus bay that turn on. They gave us a price of $60,000 for that. So we went out, again, looking at prices and making it competitive. We brought that down to $20,000. And so that was a huge savings by just the firefighters stepping up and really, acquiring the same products on our own from other vendors, and then that company came in and did the final install. So we saved a lot of money there.
It is wired, and we're set up to bring our use of force simulator in. As you're aware, the simulator that we purchased from Milo Range is their top-of-the-line portable system. So it can be set up and torn down, but with the wires in, and it helps us have a more conducive training environment. And I was just talking with the assistant chief too. We'll have to see once we get it set up exactly how loud it is, since this is a shared building, and we don't want to be causing any problems. Like if night shift were to use it at 2, 3 in the morning, the simulator comes with surround sound for interaction with the system, and then officers yelling commands. So we want to make sure that it's used appropriately, and we all, I guess, we're not interfering with fire operations also. So but it is set up for that. It is a joint venture, and I guess if you have any questions.
Okay, so let's go on over to the other side. To make a photo like that, a picture frame, shadow box, and so we have those. So Hose Company 3 was disbanded in 1906 when we had our first career department. And so when we opened this station, we kind of reinstituted that hose company and kind of named this engine after that hose company. So we're kind of bringing a little bit of our history back.
Awesome.
So, yeah. It's definitely neat. So over here, we have the 2 offices. This building only has 2 offices. That was one of the reductions that we made in size. This one here is for the police department. And so the police department will be able to use this for report writing and things like that. And then the other one over here is for the on-duty officer. This station has at full staffing is 4, and it's a lieutenant, a driver, and 2 firefighter paramedics. As staffing goes down from people being sick or vacations, The minimum staffing this building would have is 2, a lieutenant and just a driver. And so we're always staffed to respond for EMS, but when staffing comes down, that's where, not that we lose the engine company's abilities, but that's where those staff's coming from as we come down in numbers. And so we've really tried to incorporate a lot of technology in what we do and make it really, to streamline our communications, I guess. That would be the biggest thing. You saw the board out in the lobby that listed not just weather, but who's on duty today, events that were occurring. This one here is our apparatus. This board, we have the same one down at Station 1, and Public Works also has access to this. And so it's a Google Drive document that we can access from our phones and update it. And so it has the status of all our vehicles, but then also repairs. And so if I was to get a flat tire on a vehicle, well, I would enter that in there. It automatically would pop up under that vehicle that there is a mechanical issue, who's handling it, and is it pending, is it resolved, things like that. And so because what we found was there was a lot of issues with our communication of what's wrong with this truck. Well, I sold so-and-so, and so-and-so's working on it. And this really kind of keeps that streamlined. It keeps a historical track for all of our vehicles, but both stations see the same thing. And Public Works. So they're able to log in and see what's going on. All right. So right down this hallway is into, like I would say, more of the living quarters for the staff. So firefighters, our staff, they're here for 48 hours, and then they're off for 96 hours. But during that 48 hours, looking at call volume, the trends that we've had, they're going to respond to approximately 20 calls. The average length of time of each call is 2.5 hours. And so they're up a lot, and they're out of the building a lot. And so when they're in the building, we need to make sure that we give them an area to relax so that they can recover for the next call. It's kind of the living, I guess, quarters, or we just want to make it nice, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, definitely. But so this is that area. This is the day room. This is where they're going to sit and relax and watch TV, things like that. Actual dorm rooms. They're back here.
We've lost a couple
So,
of chairs.
we talked about the staff being 4 people at the max on duty. We have 6 dorm rooms. And the reason for that is that if we were to have a lot of calls come in, or really, I'd say long duration of calls, our paid-on-call staff may need an area to either change clothes or even stay overnight. And so we have 6 bunk rooms or dorm rooms, and they're not large at all. It's as you'll see, it's a bed and 3 lockers. And so then we have a laundry room where they're going to be able to do laundry, and then the bathrooms on this side. It is really nice, and we're really grateful for it, but it is just what we need. There's really nothing extra here. So the kitchen, we talked about how busy the firefighters are and how much time they spend out of the building and on calls, and how when they're in the building, we want to make sure they're as comfortable as possible and able to somewhat relax. And so the kitchen has everything a normal kitchen would have. Just an extra 2 refrigerators, because we have 3 shifts, and that's all fire stations have 3 refrigerators if we want to keep everybody getting along and so forth. And then this table, the firefighters built this. They paid for it and built it. It turned out really great. We have a lot of pride here in the fire department and in the city. So it's really good.
I do love your sense of tradition that you have in the fire department. I mean, that's just...
Thank you. The firefighters are required to have physical fitness. They're required to work out every shift. And so we provide a exercise room with really kind of the basic, treadmill, weights, those kind of things. The firefighters had formed a group, a committee, I'd say, that really reviewed all the different exercise equipment, and they chose what type of equipment they wanted. I gave them a budget. They came in under that budget, and so it was really good. The apparatus bay, obviously this is where we keep our vehicles. Right now our boat is inside because of the winter, and so the firefighters are going through getting that ready. But we have an engine company, just like we discussed. This is German company number 3, kind of follows that tradition. And then we have 2 ambulances that are here. We also have the police command bus that's located here in the firefighters' gear. And so there's still some work out here, some touch-up paint that they're doing, but overall it's been really good. Any questions on the equipment that's here?
Is that your newest truck there?
This is our newest truck, yes. Yes.
Apparatus.
Apparatus, yep. Yep, 25-year truck.
Okay.
So, yep.
And the plan, this is home for that truck?
Yes, it is. Yep. Yep. Any other questions for me? Hopefully I didn't go too quick through this, or...
Shannon, what's the exhaust things here?
I'm sorry, what?
What's the exhaust?
Oh, yeah. So it's, firefighters are, and I'm going to say 40% greater risk of cancer than the general public. And so the question was, what is this hose equipment that's up above us? This is one of the areas that we try to reduce our exposure to carcinogens because of cancer. So this is capturing our diesel exhaust. The moment we start up the truck, it becomes a negative pressure, and so it's almost sucking that exhaust out of the building. But then it's also set up so we can quickly get out. And so we drive out with that hose still connected, and when we get to the door, it comes unhooked. Yep. But it's very important.
Saves a little time.
Yes, saves time, and it's capturing all that exhaust. You know, back in the older days when we'd have that exhaust smoke in here. And then
the tower yet? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So, have you started using the tower?
We did.
Oh, good.
We did, and it's great. We haven't had any fires in it yet, but we started pulling hose and practicing. Yes. Yep. Upstairs, I don't know if we're really going to go up there, but on that mezzanine, it's a very small area where you see that door. That's where the boilers are and some other infrastructure equipment. It's also one of the requests of the council was that this building was solar ready, and so it has that space up there for that solar equipment. Yeah. It's a great building. We are very grateful for the guidance from the council, city administration that has helped us get this project underway and completed. It's been something that's been discussed for a long time. So, very grateful.
Okay, we're a little behind, so we're gonna talk a little bit more when we're driving, unfortunately, but that's just, we'll get caught up here. So Ron's next.
Yeah, we'll go down to Spring Creek Road, take a right, go on South Service Drive, review the other part of the Spring Creek Road project. Last fall, I had brought a change order to council for a vinyl coated chain link fence with slats in it between Helen Lane and South Service Drive, and you'll see where the snow fence is there right now. We'll be coming to you at the next council meeting with that same change order, but I think they dropped like $1,100 off of it because we're not doing it in frozen ground. And we will be talking to the lady that it's right in front of her house before we bring that. So we haven't talked to her yet, but we'll do that this week here. Lorraine, I forget her last name, but we'll talk to her. She's a nice lady. We did some work on the street in front of there and redid her driveway and helped her out with that. So we'll see that as we go by. We'll see, I guess you won't see because of the snow, but all that area needs to be seeded yet. One thing to note by River Valley, and I'll mention again when we get there, but we've got to pour some concrete display areas for him. That was part of our agreement with the property we needed from him. We didn't get that done last fall. We're going to do it with colored concrete. That's what he'd like to have there versus like a patio blocks or something of that nature. So we got to get that done yet. You'll see that he's parking his boats out in the right-of-way again. He had done that years ago and we had issues with it, and then he was fine for a long time. But now that we don't have the sidewalks poured there yet, he's right out to the curb with the trailers of his boats and things like that. So I want to make sure our new sidewalk is poured out to the right-of-way, at least in that double curve, because we were supposed to pour 6 feet, and then he wanted the red concrete to start after that. And I'm telling our consultant, we're pouring white to the right-of-way, and then we're going to do red, so it's easy for guys like Roger and his team to see if he's over our right-of-way with those tongues of those trailers. So you'll see it when we get there. It's kind of, I drove by there the other day, and everything's right out to the curb. So those are the things I kind of want you to note as you go through that area.
Then we're going to Hewitt.
Yep. We'll talk about that when we get there.
Okay.
We're gonna have to park up there. Talk about that stuff.
On the top or bottom side?
On up above. And then we're gonna go out to the end too. And that'll be this sheet here once we get up there. Yeah, I'll talk about that. Show them where it is. The whole thing in general. Like I say, you can't see, but we need to seed all this stuff out here yet. The markings on the pavement are mostly temporary right now. They need to be redone. Sidewalks haven't been completed, but you can't see them. We didn't open any of the sidewalks up or require anybody to shovel this winter because they're not completed throughout the whole project. I think they are along here to a point and then they stop.
On your fence, Ron?
Yeah, that's that fence. That's the area that's going to have that that vinyl coated, 90% blockage of light slatted fence. It's the same blockage as what's out on Sturgeon Lake Road by Tipsy Turtle. That's where the fence company told us they used the 90% blockage. They slide these PVC things in between them that blocks, you know, because we've got headlight to headlight coming on that. You know, so we don't want them to look at each other and go off the road or anything. There will be trees planted along here too. We've got that in the project. But you'll notice here where he's got these right out to the curb. He's got a lot of stuff out here, and that's the areas we're going to pour those red colored display areas up there. I'm not sure if this gets it or not where he's got that boat, but we're going to have a 6-foot walk here up through this area. It'll be more like 7 to 8 feet walk to get out to the right of way, wherever the right of way is. Just because I don't want him out into our right of way in these curves where you need sight vision around those corners. Here it'll be a 6-foot walk all along here, but you can see he's got boats all along here in that 6-foot zone. And then we do have a little right of way behind that, but I'm not so worried about him parking up against it once you get 6 feet back, because it's a straight shot and we don't have sight problems. And then the project ends right there. So now we'll go up Tyler Road South and we'll go up to where the Bartman Keller apartment buildings are. Just notice on the way up, Tyler Road South is one of them. The street's going to be milled and overlaid this summer with the ADA improvements, all the way from 61 over to Bench Street. So if you just notice the pavement as we go up there.
Are those boulders on the right of way?
Those boulders are off the right of way. Me and Lynn Nardinger stood out here while they moved them. They were in the right of way, and he's
a colorful banker.
This fella is pretty strong-minded, strong-willed, and he wouldn't move them back into other areas. So we were here while he had a guy move them, and we made him put them just outside the right of way, so they're not in our right of way. He ended up putting them there because he said a lot of River Valley's trailers, when they go around the corner, the trailer would jump the curb and kick rocks all over his parking lot. So he said he put those there and it stopped the problem. But we said we got to have them off our right away.
That's why we were calling you.
So they're barely off if anyone asks. They're on his property. Yeah, we had some pretty nasty emails going back and forth. But when you meet him, he's a nice guy, but in an email, he'll type anything.
Colorful, we call it.
Yeah, colorful.
It's upside down.
Oh,
Really?
oh yeah.
Oh, that's the direction.
Yeah, my God.
How many of those?
A lot.
Is Mike Dove working? Mike Dove working? Yeah.
I don't think so.
That, you can't say I
I asked Pat, and Kay had asked me to ask Pat, and he didn't think it was.
Somebody did you just put it in the column? Somebody just
Oh, yeah, we had it in the column.
Yeah.
So, this is the Keller Bartman site for those 2 large apartment buildings. We'll go up, turn around, and park where you can kind of see down into here, and then we'll talk about the turn lane that's been requested out there. Come back to this park right here so you can see down in it.
Wave to Jessica. We go by her house.
Was she outside with her pajamas and her dog?
Rick, these are private streets, right?
Yep.
These are private streets right in here, this subdivision.
So we don't plow this. We don't maintain this area.
These are private. But public still has access?
We have drainage utility easements throughout the whole thing, because we still have the mainline sewer through here.
But I mean,
the mainline water.
Well, people can drive it here.
Okay, so but I mean public access?
Yeah, public access, just not owned.
Right.
Association.
It's a special agreement or something.
It's association.
So it's a special project manager agreement type of thing.
Yeah, that's where it came from. You're right. That's why there's no sidewalks too. No, he's an association president. And the buildings are so close to the curb.
Who is Chad? Is he? I didn't know that. Stefan's the association president. Chad.
Yeah, I think.
We went the other way around.
Oh, okay.
You're coming up on it now.
That didn't seem right looking at it. But the public street starts right at the intersection that's in front of us here, or in front of you. Yeah, right here is where the public street starts here. So, we're on Fairview Boulevard. Yeah, this is Fairview Boulevard, yeah.
Hewitt.
Yeah, Hewitt, yeah, okay. This says Fairview Boulevard on, but it's Hewitt. And we just parked right here. We just went around the loop back here and came up here. So we're looking down into this site. There's 2 large apartment buildings, one right up here by the road along Hewitt, and then one down towards the bottom. And I kind of highlighted these garages, that are those garages down over the hill. So this gets pretty close to those garages, if you can imagine the size of that. Here's Tyler Road South. The first phase they're going to do this summer is this building down on the low side and do all the grading about halfway through the lot, and this will be phase 2 up here on this road we're on right now. There's a big grade change from this site down to this one. There'll be a retaining wall all the way along here between the 2 parking lots. They had requested throughout the design process, preliminary, that they get an access out here onto Tyler Road. And with this being a real steep grade coming from the lower site to the upper site, we felt, yeah, there will be certain times during the year where that'll be icy and all these people will be stuck down here and can't get out. So we are allowing it, especially with a 4-way stop up here at Tyler Road. This traffic will be coming slower down. We are allowing a left turn in, but no left turn out of this site. If they want to go left up towards Menards, they're either going to have to drive up this and come up here to the intersection, go internally, or they'll have to go down to another crossover and turn a U-turn and come back up the other side. But at the last council meeting, we had the petition from the Keller Bartman's properties to add this property to our, well, to build this stuff out in the right-of-way, which would be their exit and entrance into and out of their property, and that left turn lane. We felt it'll be a good thing to add to our overlay project. Being we're overlaying this anyway this summer, we're looking at adding that in. The next council meeting will be bringing the engineer's report to you. It's going to be around 90,000 plus or minus 5 to do this, but it would be 100% assessed back to them. They were trying to look at a way we could build it and bill them for it, and we talked to Marshall, and that would have to be paid in 1 year with the current code we've got. If we did something like that, even if they put it on assessments, didn't pay it, and it went to assessments, the miscellaneous assessments would be paid right away. So the way to get this stretched out over 10 years with interest, just like any other assessment, would be to just have us do it as a Chapter 429 project added to ours. So That's what's coming to you, the engineer's report at the next meeting. 100% petition it was that you accepted at the last meeting. So there will be no public hearing on it. Once you receive the report, we'll draw the plans up, we'll bring them back for approval for bid letting. And that'll be after we get the approval from the state to approve, to bid the project out. But that's the stuff involved. I had this is actually the plan sheet for it out of the plans, but you can't really see that very well, but it's a matter of, and the reason it's 90,000 doesn't look like a lot, but that's deep straight pavement out here. That's a state aid road. It's got 7 inches of blacktop in it. These turn lanes will all be constructed, and anything out in there with blacktop of 7 inches thick, so, and 12 inches of aggregate below that. So it's a pretty heavy duty road, and we're going to build it the same way since it is state aid route. And then we've got ADA improvements to do for their entrance in and out of their actual property. So that's that, but it is 100% engineering, and everything is paid by the property owner for that. And we couldn't stop down there where the turn lane. Turn lane is actually going to come into the property at the access about midway in the property. If you go from this intersection down to those garages we looked at, it's about midway is where it'll come in. So we'll be constructing that portion, and they'll be doing a lot of work here this summer. Now we'll go out to the end where the extension of Hewitt and Red Wing Avenue coming down from the lower side is proposed. We received a petition from Mayo last week.
Yep.
Yeah, last week to do the project, but it sounds, originally we were thinking we would receive the right-of-way from them, plus have them assessed. But they're also talking now like they were going to get Dan the cost that they would need for the right-of-way. We should pull that up. For Red Wing Avenue. Okay.
Yep, you're right.
Okay. This is that building there. I forget the name of it. Deercrest. The pavement ends just past their driveway, right about. Here they are. Here's the driveway. The pavement ends right here. So from here, what the petition is for is to put sewer and water. We don't have it in beyond the blacktop. Put sewer and water out to the end so it can service that area out to overlooking the river valley, and then put a road here, and then also put a road down the bottom to where the other Keller Bartman properties are, up through this woods here. We don't have right-of-way on the Red Wing Avenue portion of it, and that's where Mayo owns all of this property. So what would like to request from council is whatever they want for this right-of-way, would we be willing as a city to pay for any of that out of city funds, or would we say, okay, say if he wants 50,000, we take that 50,000 and assess it back to the 3 property owners so that the city has no money into the project. That's kind of that's the one we're looking at.
That's a really good one.
Okay, because what I'm planning to do with the Keller Bartman, since they don't have frontage on these, is I'm gonna have them sign an agreement of a waiver of assessments. And in that, it'll say what their assessment will be. So I have to find out what this right-of-way is gonna cost, and then I'll just raise their assessment by a third. A third of that cost will go to them, a third of it will go to these people, and a third will go to Mayo. And then I'll bring it that way to council. Hopefully we get that right away.
I was hoping yesterday to have gotten it, but
he was hoping to have already gotten it, so we wanted to bring it to this next council meeting, but if we don't get it in time to get that, get the numbers for that, to get the numbers for this agreement, we might have to go 2 meetings out, but hopefully we'll bring it to this next council meeting as receiving the petition and accepting or approving the agreement with Keller Bartman. These people, we've met with them in the past, haven't met with them in a while, but they do not want the improvement. They said they basically can't afford it, the Deercrest people. But there was an agreement back when this was extended for them that there was a 10-year period where they would not waive or would not fight assessments to extend this out. And by the time this came up, when Keller Bartmans were requesting it, it was the 11th year. So it would, this one being we only have a petition for a third of the property or over a third, 35%. We will have to have a public hearing, but we just need a simple majority of council to order the project. You won't need that super majority that no petition needs. So I'm sure they will come to the hearing and complain or say they can. But it would be assessed over a 10-year period at the normal interest rates. So it's
We negotiated that contract that they agreed
yeah.
that they wouldn't fight any assessments.
Yeah,
Now,
because
we're a couple years past that now, but
because it really, this road in my mind should have been extended out to the end when it was extended, but at the time they didn't want to spend more than they had to either, so they only wanted to go as far as their driveway.
right.
So
It was a negotiated agreement.
yeah, that's why it was only extended to here, is because we said, well, 10 years out we won't fight them, but now it's beyond that. So that'll be coming to you soon. I didn't know when it will be coming, and all of a sudden now we're getting the petitions. I'm not sure if we really need to. We'll have to talk more on it, but if we don't absolutely need to get this constructed this year, I'd like to do it in-house and survey it as we get time and design it over the winter. It's not going to be a lot to design because it's new construction, and then do it in-house. But if we need it absolutely constructed this summer, we're probably going to have to hire a consultant to do it because we've got a lot on our plates right now.
I think the key is when Keller Bartman does that other phase of the TIF project for that the townhome thing. So, I mean that's the big key with that additional traffic and the need
We got
there.
water and sewer going down there already, so this is more of a loop, right?
No, there's nothing going down the hill, and we wouldn't connect either sewer or water down.
I'm not saying down there, up the hill.
Yeah, just from the end of the road, just out to the end is all we have to do. Yep. And then some storm sewer coming up the hill to capture the water, especially coming out of Deer Crest.
Put it in the pond.
Yeah, yeah. Now
we're going to Pottery. Okay,
The building permit came in for the Keller Bartman, and it's 108 units, general occupancy. It's the one that's down lower that he mentioned. And SACWAC fees were 200 and some thousand. And everyone in my office was like taking a deep breath, like, wow, that's a lot. But I was thinking back when I came from Prior Lake, I knew it would be higher back in the metro. So I asked back in Prior Lake. I knew they had just approved a 51 unit apartment building, and the fees so that's roughly half, not even half of the 108 unit building, and that was about 325,000 up in Prior Lake. So I mean, it's a lot of money regardless, but the Twin Cities has the metro wastewater SAC fees that are really high. And so
and
forth,
those fees, that's just what is it? Water access charge or
Sewer access charge.
availability. So those all help to pay for our sewer and water systems, which we are really in trouble right now because every time we do a reconstruct and we're replacing, we're not assessing any of that. That's all being absorbed by the sewer and water funds. And this does help to maintain that system. So when they come in and they say they want some of that waived, it's tough to do because we're so far behind on our sewer and water system to begin with and we aren't charging even half of what they do in the metro the way it sounds.
And actually, we did a study a little while back, and we're really competitive even on regional centers of our size. So, I mean, there was, I thought a year or two ago that we did an analysis, and we're fairly reasonable on SAC and WAC.
Well, we used to have a really healthy fund balance in both those accounts. So we start doing all this reconstruction.
Yeah. Well, and the plant.
And the plant works, the water treatment, you know,
There's a whole bunch of stuff
water
that got
towers,
figured in
wells.
there in recent years.
So we're gonna go down to the Pottery Pond now, and we just take a quick look. There's two phases. We did half of it last year, and then the second phase this year. Last year they built the new dock. They redid the handicap accessible sidewalk down. There was a lot of sloughing on the bank. You know, it's a pond and it's a very marshy area, so we had a lot of bank stabilization. So that project was done last year, and now the project for this year is a multitude of projects, but I'll first start talking about the Pottery Pond, and we'll stop there and I'll kind of try to show you a print. we are going to add 2 handicap accessible piers that are off of Levy Road. They're literally off the trail.
I've got the I've got the pond outlined in blue, and the two accesses. Levy Road's up here. The 2 accesses are kind of just spaced across the pond for fishing spots to access the pond.
Handicap accessible, so that's a big deal. That there will be a couple more areas where they can literally fish, and people fish that pond, and they stock the pond. There's fish in the pond all the time.
This westerly side was last year's project, along with some work on this easterly side on this little lookout point here, and a couple of fishing spots towards the south end of the pond. So all the work this year is going to be along the road.
Then the other part of the project is bringing water and sewer. Well, sewer's already in there. Water. Right now we have a water line that's attached to the underneath side of this bridge. That's how we get water over to our boat storage area. And I don't think the boaters that put their boats in there would be very happy if they were told that there's no way to get a fire hydrant, a hose there. So we are bringing water all the way down to...
Yeah, we're starting at Bay Point, connecting on there. We're going to run an 8-inch water main all the way out. We're going to run a service into here, an 8-inch service. We're going to run an 8-inch service across the road over to this site right about here. So we'll have a hydrant sitting there. So the water main will come across, come through here, go up. It'll service that property, go underneath the rain garden here by the parking lot, and then go under the pond and all the way down to Bay Point and connect up. They're going to directional drill under this rain garden and under the pond, and they want to stay, I think, like 15 to 20 feet below the bottom of the pond, because they don't want any of the bentonite to boil up into the water, because we'll have a mess. And HDPE pipe, or no, this isn't HDPE. This will be PVC pipe. It'll float when it's empty, so they want it far enough under that it doesn't try to come up off the bottom. But it'll be about 20, 30 feet out there underneath the pond.
This dock gets moved, as you might well imagine. It just didn't get moved last year. It goes to kind of where those folks are over there. It'll be up there. The actual piers will be along here in the front, right here on Levy. We can drive down a little.
This fence gets replaced with a tubular steel, I think black.
The trail gets replaced too.
And the trail.
The trail will get replaced. They'll be beefing up the riprap a little bit in here where there is riprap. Towards the other end, there is no riprap. They're going to riprap that slope and try to just get this all beefed up so it quits sloughing. Yeah, that black railing.
Did you say what the yellow was for in the water?
That's just a boom.
Those are silk curtains.
Stormwater.
So, because they were working along that shoreline last year. That should not just go out and I think they don't need it anymore. And
they couldn't get it out of there. The pond is way high right now because of the river. There's a gate that lets water in and out. It's typically not this high, so you would see a lot more riprap.
Here's the area we're gonna add riprap in this area.
In the corner to take the banks from sloughing. So let's stop here 1 second.
On the south side of the pond?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
The what?
Sure. You know, we're never getting out of that site because the Corps brings sand and silt in, okay? We have relocated anything new to our site up by Lab USA where I took you folks last year. But we still have a significant amount of fill in here that we take in and out, more out than in now. You know, we don't have salt in here anymore. Salt's all at the state shop and that kind of stuff. So we will never ever get completely out of there. Like the construction project, they're utilizing the site now. I know you saw boats on that side. We have a contract with Mr. Wooden to store the boats till, I don't remember when the day is, but sometime, and he'll probably come back to us again. That would be my guess. So I wanted to talk about this a little bit, about the bridge project. They're renting the bulkheads, right, Dan? Zenith Tech?
Well, we're not a part of that.
No, but
yeah,
Arco or whoever.
Arco, yep.
So they're going to unload the rest of the girders here?
Yeah, the girder tubs are going to come in about the beginning of May. They're going to actually, instead of coming in the Wisconsin way, they're going to go up around through Hastings, come back down, come down here. They're going to unload them on the barges here, scoot them down to the bridge, and put them up at the bridge. Because of that causeway in Wisconsin, they're afraid to use that now that the water's over the top of it. where they had all those cranes sitting when you saw before. There's like 6 cranes there. They're gonna have them out on barges now, and they're gonna bring the tubs down this way and put them on. So, and they want to get them done before the barge traffic season comes. So that's why they're looking at throughout May doing that. It was just a shame that water. We had that rain and that water came up so fast because they were working 24 hours a day trying to get all those tubs in, and they were getting close. So that's a shame. And you'll see on beginning of May is what Jay had told me. He sits in on those meetings.
I'm gonna have them stop at Kelly's.
Okay. And then you'll see too our river project on the levee and small boat harbor. Also, we were working 24 hours a day and kind of got cut short there too. At least we got it to a point where we could stabilize things before the water got up. But now all of our stuff is sitting out here for that project. We just wanted to stop here and show you the right-of-way that we own is right where that big cottonwood is, and right next to that big cottonwood is the deck of Kelly's Bar. That would be our second option. Where we would like to come through is that building over there with the copper-colored top or tan-colored top. Looks like he's been starting to fix that up.
They did work on it. Yeah.
Okay, but that's where we'd like to have that bridge come across, is right over by that building. But if that doesn't work out, where we can get a good deal on that, we'll have to come through on our right-of-way and have them take that deck off.
Hey Ron, is that still snow? Piles of snow back there?
Oh yeah, they'll be there for a long time.
They'll be there till end of May probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We weren't going to dump snow here this year. We were only going to dump it back in the area that Evan just questioned us about, but we ran out of space, so we ended up having to dump it here again this year. Okay, we can roll through
Any
this.
questions on any of this, or from this angle?
We'll keep you informed as we negotiate with.
Notice the elevation change here too. You know, this is a little higher, but that was done a while back for that stormwater and stuff, right?
And the fleeting.
Yeah, and the fleeting.
And that was the whole reason, a large part of the reason we put the roundabout here. This roundabout isn't needed because of traffic volumes from the directions or anything. We put it there to save money in the future on re-excavating what we just put in, because we knew the riverfront plan called for moving that road from there over to here, and we can modify the roundabout to have the road come out here instead. Where if we would have built it as a T intersection like was originally proposed, we'd have had to tear out a whole bunch of newly reconstructed stuff to turn this road back out. So that's a large reason the roundabout went here. So now we'll try to look at the wall improvements down here in the small boat harbor, but I think it's all underwater today.
I'll just mention on Vogel Harbor, or small boat harbor, Red Wing Marina area, we got most of that done. It was stabilized we had some additional costs. We're still waiting with Meyer for the expedited work schedule, accelerated work schedule numbers, and I've got about 24 issues we're negotiating with them on some of the extra costs that we ran into, so I still don't have that final number yet. But when the water gets down to about 10 feet, we think we'll be able to get back in there after it has an opportunity to drive to get Red Wing Marina back up and operational. That's the first area we'll be able to go.
Yeah, you can see here where that fencing stops at this dock right here. That's where the old walls, the wall we constructed in 2016 stops. So the project he's talking about starts there and goes out to the end. Right. But it's all underwater.
But we were able to stabilize it with some what's called breaker run rock, which is heavier limestone rock and compacted. So we've got a pretty good surface on it.
Yeah, it's a shame we didn't do that at the same time, but the state bonding funding, they didn't give us everything we wanted.
Yeah,
and we only got enough to do so far.
Right.
And you can't start on it and ask for money after you've spent money, so we had to wait with this section.
Yes, so what Ron's talking about is when we did Levee Road, we wanted to do it all, and we had this bid as an alternate, but we just didn't have the money for the whole project for Levee Road reconstruction of the trail.
So if someone says, what are you guys doing? Why are you doing this one year and that another and messing everything up? That's why it was the funding sources they didn't get it.
It didn't align.
Then after they came and saw it, then they go, oh yeah, we should have gave you all that money. so then we got the money the next year.
you think?
I would guess probably about 12.5.
I don't know.
It was 13, I think, last night.
Let's see if that's not.
Probably
I don't think
13,
we
12,
need to show
5,
that
something
one.
like that.
I've seen it in there.
But
That's
10
more
feet
if we need
there, then
technical.
down here also at 10 feet, it's at the top of the existing wall when it gets down to 10 feet where the wall used to be on the flat spot. And then we need a little bit less.
That's the type of pipe railing. I think there's some more up here. Yeah, that's the type of pipe railing that'll be along Pottery Pond, is what I've been told.
Now we got everything done down here except for the sheet pile. Ron, you want to hold that up?
Yep.
Except for the sheet pile around this corner here and the Broad Street storm tunnel. So all the storm tunnels were done, Bush and Plum. We got all the sheet pile down, the notches in. We accelerated here because Zenatech and MnDOT, they need access by this pinch point to continue the bridge, so we didn't want to hold them up. So that's part of our cooperation agreement with MnDOT also, that we have a line item in there. We don't know what that funding level is yet either. So they'll still have access now, which was a high priority. Again, down here we stabilized it and capped it. Then we just have to wait till the water goes down. The only issue that concerns me is we do have a sunset for the first port development funding. We have to have that expended by June 30th. And that port money is dedicated towards this work, so we're monitoring that. If there's going to be an issue, we may have to go to the legislature to ask for an extension, but I'll be able to update probably if there's an issue by the second meeting in April. Because that's another thing we're monitoring.
Huh?
We have to spend the money. Where are we at?
13.5.
13.5. So.
Done? Yeah. We were at one point going to go over to the airport, so we were going to go across and look at the bridge there. But as long as we're not now, it's kind of tough to see. But if you notice the bridge, you'll see those middle spans are missing. Those are those tub girders I'm talking about that they'll be loading off of the barge up, or the bulkheads up here and bringing down in May. Those are the ones that would have been on there I think if they had another week, of that 24-hour day working, they'd have had those on. But because they were really making good headway at the end there, and then the river came up and they got scared because the causeway they were working off of in Wisconsin was getting too high and they didn't want to tip those cranes into the water. So I can't blame them.
Jay said they got a request.
Oh yeah, then just this last week, the contractor Zenatech sent a letter to the state saying that this high water is causing delays. That's going to cause delays to opening the bridge this fall. It's supposed to open in September. Jay said they're still anticipating opening before freeze up. But they're kind of putting a precursor out there to MnDOT that, hey, we want more time on our contract is what they're trying to do. So we'll see how it goes this summer, and it's still supposed to be open this fall. But all the contractors do that, the smart ones anyway. We'll try to feed you information like that so that you come to the end of the project, they say, I told you back in May or April that this was happening. So, they're just covering their ducks there, putting them in a row.
Well, on timing also, I guess the other issue with us is for the riverboats are coming, and where will Lynn, Lynn's schedules the riverboats. The first ones are scheduled for mid-July, and that's another issue. We want to make sure that, we're ready for them. So, depending on when the river goes down, we may have to expedite the schedule or accelerate also, but those things are going to be determined and potentially negotiated.
So then, with that said, Lynn told me he was contacted, and I think he said we're going to get another boat in, a different boat than what we've had. I believe it's a Queen still, right? But a different boat that has not docked here before.
Brand new boat.
And, the same thing that Ron was just talking about with the bridge, is it going to affect this levee project? And there's always costs associated with these kind of things. So I don't think it would be to anybody's surprise if we have some cost issues with Levee Park project as well.
But hopefully within the contingency.
Yeah, but it's just things that, we can't change what happened here, and we don't know how long it's going to last. It could last it could be June by the time. If it rains, if it keeps raining, we could be June. So to be able to get back in there because it's saturated now.
Okay.
Do you want me to go straight here to third?
Yeah, that would be great.
Now we're just going to drive by the Third and Bush project that we did last year, where we did the bump outs, the pedestrian handicap improvements. And I think it looks great, and I want to thank council because that project was bid higher than we had money for, and council authorized us to take some of the money out of the 2018 reconstruct because those bids came in really cheap last year. We're having a lot of headaches on that project, but the bids came in super cheap. So we took some of that money, so we were able to do this project. I want to thank you for allowing that. It turned out, I think, absolutely beautiful. So we're just going to drive through. We're not going to stop or anything, but if you have any questions or any things you want to say on it, go ahead as we go through it.
3rd Street on the bridge project. When were they supposed to start that?
Oh. Yeah.
I get to ask them those
We
things.
had some really bad, what I feel, tough issues last year with contractors, and that's a MnDOT project, the bridge, but they were supposed to have 3rd Street and Potter Street and Bluff Street all completed last fall. Didn't get any of them done. The gravel, they did some temporary winter paving on Bluff Street so that the shoe company could get their employees in over the winter without a mess. That's all coming out. They got to put all the curb in there yet. That they should be again starting up as soon as weather permits here. I would say May 1st or so, and get that done right away. Yeah.
I've actually, everybody's probably walked this, and you notice the difference when you walk it even too.
It's just nice. And then we also did that mid-block crosswalk, and that's turned out really good too. And I think we only lost one parking stall, or 1 or 2 out of the whole thing. So, because at an intersection, as you approach a stop sign, you can't allow parking for 30 feet back. So that's the length of the bump out. And as you leave an intersection, you have 20 feet to the vehicle. So we didn't really lose anything by putting these bump outs in, and we only came out 5 feet so that trucks can still maneuver. Everybody gets so wound up when you say, I'm putting a bump out in, oh, nobody's gonna be able to turn a corner. But it's not true if you do it right. We've got software that shows turning movements and all of that kind of stuff.
But they don't have software that shows snow plows.
we still
Yes, there is. We just have laws.
we still catch a little grief from Public Works plowers. But I think for the 16,000 people that use this town, it's worth it. So
I agree. We're not disagreeing with that.
Yeah, I just want to say, and I heard,
So then we'll go left.
how it's just made the movements there nicer. It feels a little more open.
Yeah, it does. It's really nice. And we also put electrical connections at the corners for events down there, because that's a huge event area for different parades and
Festivals.
Huh?
Festivals.
And all kinds of different things. So I know the chamber really loved that, instead of hanging cords out of windows for different things. Just
Okay, then we'll take a
yeah.
left at the end of the white building there. We go those trailers, and then we'll drive back to there and come around by the
Yep.
office.
We're having Excel does all the streetlights. For a few years we were installing, but the cost got so expensive for us to do it. It's cheaper to have, because Excel puts them in and maintains them for like, I don't know, do you know what streetlights are? Like $16 a month for each streetlight, and that's cheaper than us putting them in, paying for electricity and maintaining them ourselves. So if we wanted more lights in, we'd have to just inform Excel to put them, or direct Excel to put them in.
So
We typically put them in at all the intersections. Lighting intersections is typically where we do throughout the city.
Yeah, so I'm not sure who asked it, whether it's Laurel or Aaron, but we are still, you can stop here. We are still working on the layout of streetlights. As a matter of fact, Sean just gave me something yesterday. What we try to do is we're kind of comparing, you can turn around even if you want. We're trying to compare like the fairgrounds to the east end, kind of like areas of how the lots were developed and how it was the development. So I just got some of that information yesterday. Excel has to give us that. They're the ones who have all that. So we've been working with them, and we will be coming back. And it's always a council decision. So we will have it dotted on a map, and then you'll see the distances in between, and you'll get an idea what it looks like in other places.
Yeah. So
You can stop
to
here
answer your other question, we wouldn't put it in with the project anyway. So it could be done at any time. Any council directs us to have Excel put one in. It's just we'd end up having that monthly fee on it.
So for the bridge, they're working on this side now. you know, that's because they can't work on the river, so they're trying to work on the lanes over the highway. There've been lane reductions here for the last week and a half or so. So they're just working on this side. You know, why we came back here is I want you to kind of get an idea. You know, you're going to come off the ramp right over there, the bridge we just came over.
This is a slip ramp that goes over this
So when we go back through there, then I want you to get the process your eye to the Coke building. That's right there. That's our building. Okay, we bought that big. That's a six stall garage. That's our building. Now that's one of the first things you're going to see when you come into the city of Red Wing. So at some point in time, we have to decide, is that what we want it to look like, or we want some kind of other face on it, mural, any number of issues. Those aren't things I'm going to decide by any means, but we have to budget for that kind of stuff. So that's the first building you're going to see when you come into town. Okay, we can go through, Todd, and then we'll stop back there by that alley. And then the rest of it, not everyone's heard this, most of you have. We own the other parts of the building. We own the whole block now. We are trying to move the bus company from out at Public Works, they're down below us in a metal building, and move them down here. Because right now, you see how long this bus is, they have to back in and out of their building. They have no way to drive through that building. It was built too small for these kinds of vehicles. What we're proposing to do is relocate them down here, and then we would take over that spot that's out there. Now, we're in a little argument with the state of Minnesota, unfortunately, about some ownership, and the attorneys are working on that, and we'll keep working on that, but we'll get it figured out. The bus company is more than willing to want to come down here. They'd have a wash rack and in and out instead of backing. So we can stop right here. So this building right in front of us, that's going to be demolished. This is the old office area. That one gets torn down. But as you see, this side of the building will be visible coming off of that slip ramp as well. Now, we can't brick it because it's not designed to be a brick face on it. There's other options that can make it look like brick. You know, you guys all seen how they do that. But we don't have a plan. We just need some direction as we go along. We'll be bringing that to you, and somehow we'll go through a process to figure it out. Okay, can we pull ahead a little bit more, Todd, then, to the next building?
This is that area that I said is temporary paved, that they should have had curb and gutter and pavement in last fall. But their contractor, like ours, got way behind.
So that building right there goes, stop right here then. So this building with the old paint and the block, that quarter of it, or if you go back down the line to where the garage doors are, where it's regular cement block, that's all getting demoed as well. So let's pull ahead a little bit more, Todd.
The old building?
Old. Yep, anything with new block, keep going a little more. You'll keep going.
What, that old Coke sign?
Keep going all the way to where that wood ends.
Yeah.
So this is all demolished along here, as deep as it is, old building. And then we would stop about right here at the end of this. I think right here is where we stop. And then it would have a L in there, okay? So that, I know one time a concerned citizen came in and had a discussion about maybe some green space in there. We're not sure how the building will look exactly yet. It won't be that whole thing because the buses need a little bit more than that. We would take and remodel this. We would own it, and we'd have a lease signed with Three Rivers. That's how they do things. But we have to figure out how we get the financing between the state and the city.
This portion on the corner here, you're planning on keeping?
Yes, from this line right about here, Dean.
Yeah, that was done in the 60s.
Yep. Yep.
Across the building.
Yep. So that, then once again,
Where they put the brand new sugar plant?
No, not why did they do that? Why do you want to keep it?
oh, that part is good. There's no reason to tear it down. Now, facial, we'll have to do something on the face of this building as well, just like the other end of the building. It's stucco right now, cream color, that was done years ago. So this is all good. That's not good. And then, like I said, it's just going to try to get the agreement with the state is our big deal.
What is this used for currently, or what?
Currently, we're just storing stuff.
And the future future of it, to lease that to.
That would be to Three Rivers, yep. And then we would use that 6-stall garage back there for public works, or we talked about fire or police if they had a need for a downtown vehicle, like actually even the command vehicle at one time. We talked about maybe leaving that down here. It's up in the air.
And that's for the loss of that building we had over here that MnDOT bought from us.
Yeah, and that's where a
I
lot
don't
of
know
the
if everybody knows
yeah.
that. Or not.
And then, we still are talking about, is there going to be a garden over here when we're done? We'll see what's left.
There will be some space. I think they got a lot of overburden here because they were trying to get rid of dirt last year that they had no room for. I think a lot of that's overburden that will go out, but I don't know for sure. Not exactly sure how they're going to grade that.
So there's really no decisions made other than we really want to relocate the bus people here. It gives us more room on site out there, and then some green space is what they had asked for. We'll see how what the building looks like.
So, what Rick explained, those are capital projects, and those will be part of the capital project process.
Now we do have over $500,000 left, I think, right?
But then any other stuff that's
Yep.
part of that capital project planning.
Yeah.
And capital.
We have
capital
probably
budgeting.
enough to tear the buildings down and put up 2 new walls, but not enough to face the buildings or whatever we decide for that kind of thing.
Or public art or something like
Whatever the public decides, sure. Then we want to go down to Bluffview Park by Cobble School.
Yep. Now we'll go down
Cobble
by
Family
the
Center.
park. Evan.
So is there just any conversation still about that relocating a community garden back there?
I don't know about relocating.
There
I think
should
where we're
be
at is
some
we're
room
We're waiting
here.
to see what we have for room here when we're all done because they're utilizing the whole site now. But
I meant long after the bridge is done.
Oh.
There was some discussion about putting that one back. And I was just curious about whether that was still.
Yeah, I believe that one's going to come back.
yeah, it might be smaller.
It will be smaller. It's not might. It's going to be smaller.
That's fine. It really was.
Because
Yeah.
there will still be room there for part of it.
And I remember, I think at last year's workshop, where you even mentioned looking in this area for a second one, especially since that's downsizing. Is there any potential for a second small one here in this neighborhood?
Not that wouldn't get in the flood area. Because the only area is really up here.
About the old DAC property up on 6th Street, on the end of 6th and 7th.
We talked about that.
But we don't. I don't know who owns it. The county put that on the tax roll, I think, didn't it, Ron?
Yeah, I'm not sure who owns that.
That was to recover the cost of demo.
Yeah, because we couldn't. We can only take property if we have a public use. Is that how it goes?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, we'd have to
And
have
we didn't have a public use for
public
it.
purpose for it, or we can't get it.
I don't know if that would work.
I'm just thinking that.
Yeah, the
Not
community
never gonna
garden
build a
public
house
use.
there again.
Yeah, I don't know if that fits the
But
public
that,
purpose.
But wasn't
or
that a
not.
while ago though?
Yeah, that was. Yeah, that was
a
3
while
or 4
ago.
years ago. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm sure it got back into private hands somehow.
Yeah, here it'd be great.
But Kate, would you want to write that down? That old back property?
Okay, so here's the park that we just talked about the other day. The fence will run, all the way at least to this end of this fence.
It's gonna go a little further.
Yeah.
Patrick told me it'll be this area and it'll go up beyond that little warming house.
Where's the picture? Oh, so.
Right there.
Excuse
Yeah, the
me?
warming house will be coming out.
Yeah, warming house comes out. It gets a new basketball hoop on the other side, and then the playground looks. Can you tell me this is the
Yeah,
right
I don't-
color?
According to his little drawing, I don't know if you can see this or not, but I believe that's the warming house. So the playground will be 62 feet deep by 74 feet wide, and it goes out beyond that warming house and around it. And then there'll be a little area. See the road's out here. This will be the playground. Then there's a 10-foot swat in between there and the basketball courts. This will be basketball courts way in the back. And there'll be benches looking both directions and that 10-foot swat between them. And he's talking about the fence being out here along the road, and I'm not really involved in it that deeply, but that's where he's talking about it being.
Yeah, that was to keep the kids from running out.
And then we talked about the remainder of this is green space.
Yep.
Right?
Green space.
And so there isn't a fence that then goes.
No, he doesn't have one planned.
Just on
No,
the-
we get a lot of pushback when we put fences up in parks. It makes it seem more institutional.
Yeah. I said, what's going to happen with that green space? He said, pretty much nothing other than they're going to take that berm off along the back of the sidewalk. There's a berm for an old skating rink there, He's gonna cut that berm off, and then it's just gonna be green space.
Kickball, baseball, throw the ball around. We can spin around.
Fly a
now.
kite.
Not on the wires.
You're going up the side.
Yeah,
Go
just
up
go
to
up to
7th, and
7th.
we just
yeah,
head in.
and then we'll head in.
Yep.
That chain link fence, it'll be see-through, right?
And the fence, remember, if they raise, Elaine was applying for a grant, Dan, did she do that?
Yep.
So they applied for a grant to try to have not chain link fence, but what you approved was chain link fence, okay?
Yeah, we were looking at vinyl coated.
Yeah, vinyl coated.
Chain
yeah.
link.
But they might get the money to do that, and they have, we felt that they'd have till the end of the summer to make that decision, because that's how long it'll take to get the park done. So,
But law enforcement's desire is to be able to see.
see through it.
That's the
And
DAC,
that would
that's
be
the
the
DAC
fence.
property. Yep.
That's the fence they would get.
Yeah, that was the DAC property.
Can
Or-
the city acquire that for community garden?
I don't know who owns it now. That's what we're gonna check into and see.
Did you write that down, Kate?
Yeah, she did. That was. This is the area. See, right now I don't think we paint crosswalks at all here, because there's no stop on 7th. But this would be probably where we would look at that flasher. It would be on that side of that intersection because it can take that whole community. Yeah.
Can you do a bump out there, like we have on 3rd Street?
Yeah, I think we've got parking on both sides. We could do that. Yeah.
Because that would be the traffic.
Calming.
Yep. Yep.
What about here? This goes to the cow path.
Which is the other one?
Cooper Ridge, right here.
We'll look at them. Cooper Ridge goes back there. What's
That goes to the cow path.
Hodgman.
Hodgman?
Correct. Does Cooper Ridge go to the cow path?
That one does have a painted crosswalk on it, so maybe that'd be an ideal one there.
Well, plus that's ADA and handicap.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people with wheelchairs there.
Yeah.
And then we're done.
But we'll look at that. I'll ask Dean why he didn't.
Go around and just.
I'm gonna ask Dean why he didn't.
Go under the
Team
field
why he
to,
didn't
just go up.
think of that in the first place. That was a good thought.
They're going back in the council.
Yeah, but it's state aid money and it's
You think
a
so?
good. You still do what's best.
Yeah, I hear you. Sorry, we're
Yeah,
a few
and
minutes
more
late.
state aid, but some
We're gonna blame it on Shannon. Okay.
No, we're only 2 minutes.
I said
We'll
a
be
few.
3 minutes late. That's good.
Not bad.
We want to thank you guys. This is important for us. I know you might think we just chat and have nothing to say, but this is really important when we have this time with you. It really is. So thanks for taking the time and doing this.
Yes.
It's really important to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure it is, because then you're out here actually physically seeing it, and you can ask questions, and we can answer the best we can. But yeah, this has been very good for me today. Talk about some of my funding issues that are coming up, and things are always moving and mobile. That it changes daily on us.
Thank you guys for taking your Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Talk us through some
Just spring, just once a year. That wouldn't be a bad idea either. When it's getting close to freeze up, and we're going, oh, this one isn't done yet.
That's why we don't bring you on the phone. Just saying.
Yeah, you can always blame it on
You
me.
know it, Evan. You've heard it. You've heard it, haven't you, Evan?
Everyone does that.
He can take it.
When I was younger, it really bothered me because I thought I'm going to get fired. But now I don't care if I get fired. but I'm still working the hardest I can for you and for the citizens. I'm not ever going to quit doing that.
You guys got your boots on? Getting a little deep in here. It's all going this way.
I got a tear in my eye.
Yeah.
You know what I want to say to you.
Actually, we're going to take everything bad we said about Todd because he's dropping you right at the door. So, thanks, bus driver.
Good job, Todd.